What keeps the heartbeat of a community alive? Is it the courage to create, the power to connect, the vision to transform? Well, it's all of these and more. It's a symphony of ideas, innovation, and industry. But where do these stories come alive? It's right here on The Isle, 104.9 FM, the station where dreams meet action and growth finds its voice. The Isle, 104.9. Business, economy, development. Stay tuned.
We've got just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas Touch, and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix, and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best quality job. A drop makes a hole in a stone, not by force, but by consistent dripping. Nothing describes this woman more apt than her indomitable and consistent drive for excellence. Born Bilikisu Abiodun Moturayo Omobalanle Adekola on December 24, 1962, into the family of Alhaji Abdulmoshood Adekola, the first grandson of the first Alhaji in the city of Ibadan, and a Cameroonian mother, Mrs. Hannah Aduke Adekola, in the ancient city of Ibadan, Oyo State. While her mother was still pregnant with her, left for England to further his education. And while she was pretty much young, her mother left the country to go join her husband, to return while she was 8 years. Meanwhile, she was left to be cared for by her grandmother. She was registered in a private boarding primary school at the age of 4.
My parents had me. My father went off to England to go to school before I was born. He left my mother pregnant with me. My mother had me, and before I was a year old, left to join her husband in England, and I was left with my grandmother. I grew up with my grandmother before my parents came back like 8 years after. Spent my first, from at age 4 or 5, I was sent into a boarding nursery school. I lived in boarding school at a very early age because my parents wanted to protect me from becoming a local Ibadan girl.
And she usually attributes these to her early independence and wisdom. Omo Agbanimi, some of her friends sometimes poke fun at her wisdom, which is way beyond her age.
I was raised by my grandmother, so I'm a bit of an old woman in my brain, in how I think, as my friends say.
Her foray into business started at a very young age at her grandmother's shop where she sells salt. Little did she know that this was going to stand her in good stead in life.
My first exposure to business was my grandmother's little shop where she sold salt. And I used to love to sit behind her little kiosk and help her to sell the salt. But who knew I was being trained for business in my future?
While at secondary school, she participated in the literary debating group, excelling in it, which made her consider a career in law Although that didn't last. Also, it is worthy of note that Ibukun Awoshika could hold her own in athletics, earning her the nickname Rabbit because she could really run.
As an athlete, if you want to run, and I used to be fast, they used to call me the rabbit.
Unsure of what career path she was going to settle for, she considered becoming many things at one point or the other of her life. After secondary school, she thought of becoming a medical doctor, but she couldn't stand the sight of a cadaver, so she let go of that idea. Later on, architecture was another fancy that caught her attention. Similarly, she also considered becoming a chartered accountant. Finally, only see she could work in a bank.
I thought I wanted to be a doctor. Then I found out that they work with real dead bodies. I changed my mind very quickly. I then thought, you know what? I'd like to be an architect. I was good in sciences and had a problem if parents sentence you to science when you're good at both. So I ended up in Ife to study chemistry. By the end of my first year, I realized how much I hated chemistry. I could pass it, but I didn't love it. So then I thought, you know, I'd make a good lawyer. I debated throughout school. I used to represent my school in school's debate. So everybody knows that I can win an argument. So I gave it everything trying to change to law. I used to go and sit outside the door of the dean of law. And then one day the man said, come, what do you want? I want to change to law. Is that why you've been sitting outside of my office? Yes, sir. Okay, if I only take one person from another department next year, it will be you.
After the completion of her undergraduate degree at the University of Ife, she went for the compulsory one-year National Youth Service Corps, NYC, in Kano State, where she worked as an audit trainee at Akitola Williamson Co., which later became Deloitte.
For youth service, I did everything to make sure they sent me to an accounting firm. They first sent me to a Muslim school to go and teach. That was easy to solve. I just wore a dress off my shoulder. I went to report. I was immediately rejected. Once they rejected me, I went back to the posting room and waited there for days until they sent me to Akintola Williams & Co.
Although she was later given full employment after her service year, she felt becoming an accountant wasn't a thing.
You would have thought that having gone through all that trouble, accounting would be the love of my life. When I got there, within the 1 year of my youth service, I realized how boring accounting is to me. Because they had all the processes somebody else had thought about before. All I had to do was open old dusty files from company to company without imagination or initiative. I'm a very restless human being. That was not going to work. So I finished the work. I did well. They offered me permanent employment, but I said, thank you, but no thank you. Why? Because at that moment, I had come to a realization that that was not the vision for my life.
After returning home, she joined Alibert Nigeria Limited, a furniture company, as showroom manager. In a word, only to kill time. She only stayed for 3.5 months. She left to begin a furniture manufacturing company called Quibis Limited in 1989, just months before her 26th birthday. The company later grew into Souq Center Limited, following a venture merger with Souq SA and Guarantee Trust Bank in 2004.
But the first job I could find 1 week after was in a furniture company. So I went there to kill time. My kill time project has resulted in 30 years of investment of my life in building a manufacturing group in furniture. So it was never the plan of my life. So some of you will accidentally find your purpose.
One could only wonder what had led her not only to compete, but to thrive in a male-dominated terrain. With over 30 years in business, Ibukun Awoshika is a woman to reckon with, encouraging more women to participate in the business terrain. Her passion to see the girl child not just to be educated, but much more to learn to own our own value and trade with it when there is need for it. Her lifelong ambition is to see yourself die empty.
My biggest ambition in life is to die empty. Totally empty. That no talents, no giftings, no opportunities, nothing that I was born to do, that I have the capacity to do, that I do not do.
Following her remarkable achievements, she's been conferred with different doctorates, including one in business, entrepreneurship, and human capacity development from the Lagos State University, Ojo. Similarly, she was given a honorary doctorate of business administration from the Obafemi Awolowo University and another from the Olabisi Onabanjo University, Agoiwoye, Ogun State. Apart from our entrepreneurial prowess, Ibukun Awoshika is an ordained minister of the gospel, a presenter, writer, and a TV host.
The Bible tells us that let every man be what? A liar. And let who alone be true? Let God alone be true.
She hosts a television program called Business His Way. Also, she acted in the 2020 Kunle Afolanyo movie titled Citation, which in addition to the book she had written, including Business His Way, The Girl Entrepreneur, The Girls in the Boardroom, and My Thoughts in Codes. In 2004, she earned a certification in business administration and management from the IESE Business School. She's also the chairperson of the Novel Nigeria Office for Philanthropy and Impact Investment. She has consistently encouraged women to take up more leadership positions without compromising their values and integrity. In 2005, she was appointed the MD CEO of Souq SA of France, GTB PLC, the Chair Center Limited, and some local investors after the ban of the importation of furniture by the federal government of Nigeria in 2004. Furthermore, it is noteworthy to note that she independently established another ultra-modern furniture facility, Furniture Manufacturers Mart in Ikeja, Lagos. In 2008, she was among 5 Nigerian entrepreneurs who appeared in the first African version of the Dragon's Den. Unlike a great deal of others who knew exactly what they wanted to do from the beginning, she admitted to accidentally finding purpose. Ibukun Awoshika is a member of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, a member of the board of Nigerian Sovereign Wealth Fund, a former chairperson of the Board of Trustees of Women in Management, Business, and Public Service, and a member of the IESC's International Advisory Board. Furthermore, she sits on the board of Digital Jewelry Limited and Cabri Nigeria PLC. Additionally, she's a fellow of the African Leadership Initiative and Aspen Global Leadership Network. History was made on the 7th day of September 2015. Following the resignation of Prince Ajibola Afonja, she became the first female chair of the First Bank of Nigeria in its 126 years of existence. Ibukun Awoshika's octo-Nigerian father, Abdul Moshood Adekola, who was a great influence in her life, passed on the 20th April 2020 after serving the Lord as an usher at the Fountain of Life Church in Lupeju. He was a Muslim convert. He was converted few days before his 60th birthday. She got married on her 28th birthday to Abiodun Awoshika, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Excel Exploration and Production Company Limited, and they are blessed with 3 fine young men, Oludola, Olufishika, and Olamiposi. To celebrate a life of impact at 60, friends and mentees surprised Awoshika by building the Ibukun Awoshika Sports Center at our beloved secondary school, Methodist Girls High School, Yaba, Lagos. This project took about 6 months to complete and had some of our mentees like Tara Durutoye, Ndidi Okuano, Chichi Nwoko, and Bisola Runsewe. They marshaled it alongside a team of other successful people. She stands like Joshua upon the pinnacle of the Horeb, looking to command an army of a new generation of women entrepreneurs that wouldn't stop at anything to achieving their God-given dreams. For her, she believes that regardless of how illustrious her career is and how successful she could ever get in life, her family and husband remain the most important gift in her life. Ibukun Awoshika.
Broad Street. Broad Street, situated in Lagos Island, is steeped in Nigerian history. Once the biggest financial hub of the country, it housed the headquarters of major banks, linked the CBN, the stock exchange, and the loads of lender companies. Broad Street is a historically significant street. It has played a central role in the development of Lagos and history, an important commercial and administrative center for the British colonial authorities. It was also a home to some of the city's earliest modern buildings. Broad Street was a residential area in the pre-colonial era. With the British came the Methodist Boys High School in 1878 and the Broad Street Prison in 1882, renamed Freedom Park. The General Hospital, which was a British military hospital, was built in 1893, being the first general hospital in Nigeria. The old British Secretariat building, which is now the Federal Ministry of Justice, was built in 1906. Broad Street has seen a full turn into modern commercial office blocks, complexes, skyscrapers, and markets from the outer marina through Akpombo, early into the Adeniji Adele Road. Broad Street is one of the busiest streets in Nigeria on weekdays, where commercial activities take place day and night. From modern buildings to ancient structures.
It's a great Tuesday. Ask me why. Because the Tuesday has afforded us the opportunity to bring to you another edition of the program, The Front Burners. I'm Lesson AHA and Dr. Dausa Osabaza is here with me this morning already to dish out his perspective on the different issues that we'll be looking at today. That's what we do here. You do know that, right? It is to analyze critical issues so that we can all understand what's going on and proffer solutions as well. Good morning, Doc.
Blessing, good morning. It's a beautiful Tuesday. Like Winston Churchill once said, success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. And I just do hope that as our listeners and viewers, today we get that courage to push ahead. There is more walls to climb and there is more victory to be won.
Yes.
And so don't lose hope and just keep on moving when we get there.
Yes, you know, Albert Einstein actually buttresses what he just said with his life when he tried 999 times.
Oh, yeah.
He could have stopped at 2 and said, I'm
You
gone.
can imagine, yeah.
All right, let's find
We
out.
won't stop here. We will continue moving.
Oh, yes, we continue moving, and you need to actually surpass yesterday's glory so that today will be very much relevant in history. Let's get on now to the corner where this beautiful lady wants to give you something that she says you don't want to miss. Her name is Swift Aderito.
Even our face, we don't want to miss.
Okay. Thank you.
It's something I was still. I keep
Yes,
saying
I've increased the security guard around you.
Doctor, good morning.
Good morning.
As usual, you make a conscious effort to wear these lovely ties. You know, they say something that brilliant men always pick lovely ties. Is that true?
See, you made him dumbfounded for a while. Wow, you have that effect.
Oh, good morning. morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Africa. And good morning, world. Of course, this is something you don't want to miss. As Steve Jobs says that the only way to do great work is to love what you do. So ensure you love what you do today. My name is Swift Aderito, and this is the news said in a toned-down version. So let's jump right into it. They say if you push a man to the wall, he's going to bounce back. Talking about bouncing back, the Non-Academic Staff Union of Education and Association, NASU, have threatened to shut down the West African Examination Council WAEC offices nationwide, and also directed workers and members of the union to proceed on an indefinite strike beginning from Monday, March 24th, 2025. The General Secretary of NASU, Peter Adeyemi, stated this on Monday in Lagos at a press conference. He declared that the union, by his proposed action, had issued a 7-day ultimatum. According to him, the major issue is that NASU wants WAEC to address in order to avert the looming shutdown. Its worker strike is to stop victimization of its leaders in the organization and allow trade unionism and release members' check-off dues, and also abide by the memorandum, the MOU that was signed by the union. The backstory is that when workers went on strike last December to demand a 30% salary increment as agreed by the management, who made a U-turn and came back and only gave them 27.5% and still are yet to pay, and started suppressing unionism and victimizing the leaders. I hope this is sorted very soon, because our children have a school timetable and a calendar that they need to meet up to. Story 2, jubilation hits the world as Putin and Trump to speak today. Donald Trump's special envoy, Steve, traveled to Moscow last week to present a detailed joint U.S.-Ukraine ceasefire plan with a 30-day pause of hostilities. Trump told reporters earlier that a lot of work had been put in by the two sides, setting that Ukraine's conflict, and he would speak to Putin on Tuesday. Putin said he had agreed with the idea of ceasefire, but said there were a series of questions that were yet to be implemented. We hope this through very quickly, because a lot of width is needed for us to continue to make cheaper bread. And of course, my final story for the day. They say no matter how high a coconut tree is, it will definitely fall down for the owner to eat. Talking about falling down, the Nigerian inflation rate drops from 2.18% to 24.48%. Inflation rate shows a decrease in 1.30% compared to January 2025 headlines of the inflation rate. This was disclosed by the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, NBS, in its February 2025 Consumer Price Index, CPI, on Monday. According to MBS, the headline inflation rate showed a decrease of 1.30 compared to the January headline. As for food inflation, the MBI said there is a significant decline in the food inflation rate too. And this is good news. And like my brother Lagbaja Anego will say, it should keep going down, down, down. All right, guys, they say the future belongs to those who dream. And so keep dreaming and keep being happy. My name is Swift Aderito. I'm not about to leave you. I'm about to turn you over to the people who discuss every issue that you need to know about on the front burners. Of course, that's beautiful blessing. And of course, the amazing doctor who knows it all. See you at the other side.
We've got just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas Touch, and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix, and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best quality job.
Thanks, Swift Federator, for bringing us up to speed on current happenings. Let's look further at some other stories. The Economic Commission for Africa, ECA, has emphasized the need to strengthen sub-regional multilateral development banks to enhance their capacity to mobilize long-term resources and provide affordable financing for African economies. Now, this session was held during the 57th session of the ECA, which is the Economic Commission for Africa. And then they made this call in a statement published on the Commission's website on Sunday. And then there was high-level talks on how to ensure that the regional multilateral development banks are doing enough regarding development in Africa. There was talks about scaling up their operations, attracting investment, and also strategizing towards improving development in Africa. Doc, there are 4 sub-regional multilateral development banks in Africa, and they've been asked to scale up.
Yeah, I think that call cannot be more urgent right now as we see the geopolitical tensions globally. And of course, we're also seeing the declining power of our SY allies and friends in the West who are themselves facing a real development challenge at home. No thanks to Donald Trump, who is trying everything hard to ensure that aids are not flowing anymore because he's saying you cannot continue to borrow to do big boy outside. And so what I believe Africa is that a lot of gap is going to be in there. And we are seeing countries in Europe too who are passing through very difficult times as we speak. And that again will affect funding from the West to Africa. China is freezing somehow because of the deflation challenge that's also affecting. So it's only just wise to counsel Africa to find very creative and innovative way to finance its development, which of course is the worst in all the continents in the world, ravaged by world destructions and all the things that we see around, that we have not been able to actually focus on building good infrastructures that will make life really very pleasant to Africans. And I think it is just natural and wise to see our development banks really mopping up funds to build this critical infrastructure. But the bigger problem here is the fact that while they are banks and they are mopping up resource and they're going to lend to Africa, one also had to also be thinking that the African government or leaders who will be accessing this fund will be kind enough to repay these loans back to the agency so that others who have not benefited can benefit. Because what you find is that once you take a loan and of course you're failing, the bank itself cannot survive, because the only way for the bank to survive is to be able to give loan out at some level of interest and then make profit, and then of course they can spread their operation through the 54 countries in Africa. And I think it's just a wise counsel.
All right, let's look at some of the sub-regional development banks in Africa. So there is the Eastern and Southern African Trade Development Bank, commonly referred to as the PTA Bank. There is also East African Development Bank, EADB, West African Development Bank, BOAD, and ECOWAS Bank for Investment and Development, EBID. So these are operational in Africa in 3 separate regional economic communities, and 40 African countries are shareholders of the sub-regional development banks. Now, talking about those who have taken loans to be kind enough to repay, it looks more like an appeal. When you have, of all the countries in Africa, you have 40 as shareholders of the banks. And then countries may take loans, agencies of countries may take loans, and it's more like an appeal to them. It's at the detriment of the other countries.
Yeah, we have to make this appeal because it's the way the political elite in Africa tend to think. So once you have more money coming to you, what you see people do is that they think that all the money is theirs, and then you begin to expand your spending for real. So you are not remembering that you owe somebody something until you are in a dire need or in a strait. Then you now begin to look around and say, oh, yes, I used to owe, now I'm going to pay. So these are the kind of thing that many African leaders do. We're not remembering that as money is flowing in, that we need to always cut our clothes according to our clothes. So it's difficult, really, that, of course, once you find some inflow come, and you are not using it for productive actions, some of them are stolen, some of them you put in area where they cannot actually produce any results, and so you are left really not able to pay back. And I think that's the challenge many African states are facing. So how do we block all this loophole? Yes, there's no law that can stop that. So it's only appeal that can stop it. So we're begging and really appealing to leaders that we should not steal resource. And then, of course, when we have opportunity to get access to facility, we must use it on things that can produce greater results. Take, for example, investment in research, investment in education, investment in healthcare. We don't see that happening really in Africa. So most of the time, you put money and you're building a big white elephant project that, of course, in your tenure, that is not likely to be completed and is not likely to add value to the economy. But rather, if you put money on some of these social service, what you get is that you train up people who become productive and they can actually add value to the economy.
And even build a white elephant project.
Yes, of course, when they make a lot of money. So we don't see that happening. And that's why research part of Africa is neglected. Education in Africa is neglected. Healthcare is neglected because they have so much money to go to where healthcare is well developed, and then they go to tourism elsewhere. And if we can stop all of this and we'll invest that at home, all those money that we fritter away on healthcare tourism, education tourism, which is so fundamental today, that we're having more Africa in Europe, more Africa in the America than we have them in school here, is a situation that has to be nipped in the bud. So this is where, of course, we should focus our investment. That when you're actually doing social service, put it in the area where you can empower people to be productive, and as they are productive, you can actually get more tax and have more money, like you've said, to build those white elephant projects. But we always want to put the cart before the horse. And then, of course, we are not able to make advancement or progress.
Okay, let's look at some of the reasons why it seemed like the multilateral development banks, the sub-regional multilateral development banks in Africa are unable to do so much. First, they have a mandate to support integration and also supports infrastructure development in Africa. And it is reported that part of the challenges that they have is mandate clarity. So when there is a problem with mandate clarity, you will see this, put money here, put money there, let's do this, let's do that, and sometimes deviation from the core mandate. And we tend to have limited development banks to infrastructure in Africa. You rightly pointed out human capital development, which is a key thing that I think we need to actually be looking at and also incorporate into the mandate of this development bank so that we are not looking at physical development alone. And whereas the minds of the people, the skill, ability, or the competence of the people is not developed. This is also development, and it should not be limited to infrastructure alone. Even when we're talking about infrastructure, is there a clear-cut-out plan of what these countries want to do, or what these agencies that are working directly with the development banks want to do? Or it's just, sometimes the projects are just an avenue to secure loans. So you must have a purpose to tie the loan to. So you say, we want to build a road or we want to build schools. But is there a plan that you're working with to say, if we build a school in this community, we're likely to have enrollment of this number of people, and these are the courses or what they will be trained for, and then we're moving them onto a particular field. Where is the link between the development and the results that come from the development? Until we begin to do that, have clear strategies that shows that we achieve this, we're going to do this in order to achieve this. We want to move from point A to point B, and this is the way we want to have this done. We will not have scattered projects. Now, if we talk about integration even, which is supposed to come through the AFCTA, what is the roadmap? What is the strategy towards that? Are the development banks putting in money to ensure that the common currency that Africa has been yearning for, we are developing a technology to ensure that works? What are we also doing? Are we developing common economic, special economic zones to make this possible? So I think that there are a lot that needs to be done, more like overhaul the operations of the development banks.
Yeah, but I agree with you to a very large extent. But I don't feel really that mandate clarity is a problem. You see, you just take it example where you have staff come together for a cooperative. Now, you see, the whole idea is first and foremost to mobilize resource. So if you have like 20 staff come and form a cooperative, and they realize that, look, the earning power is not able to do so much. And therefore, if we have 20 people in a row come together and we pool resources, we give you to you, you can do substantial thing with it. You understand it now?
Yes.
Now, then it comes to the next person, he does substantial. Now it goes to the next person, he does substantial. Now, but this is what you find. When you mobilize this money and it's given to me, so I go for harem. And then I'm not invested, and I'm expected to pay so that I can mobilize for you. So you find that because I have not invested so well, I am not able to pay back. And because I'm not able to pay back, that circle seems to be broken. And I think this is the reality that faces some of these multilateral institutions. Now, states needs to be clear where they need help, not the banks. So the states that makes up this region should be clear. Oh, I want to invest in human capital development, for example. My priority is that I need to build a road that can connect our major farm zone to the major city market or to the seaport where these things are going to be transported. Now, you have a point there that what you're doing is that this is where this investment is going. And then the states determine those things. How I want to spend it. I want to invest in agriculture. I want to invest in healthcare, because that's a priority to us. And we see that a number of us are traveling abroad for health tourism. The foreign exchange that we are shipping abroad, we must find a way to put them at home. So that rather than private citizens traveling abroad, we have to provide a first-class health facility at home that will be equal to what they get elsewhere. Now, if these visions are well defined by the leaders of each of these countries that constitute this, then the banks only have a mandate to disburse, not to plan for the niche at the states. So it's the inability of the state themselves
to plan
that is actually making it difficult for these people to realize their mandate. Because the ask is just to give you assistance, and then you pay back with some interest, and then they mop up this resource and able to give more in the near future.
But the banks too are constrained with capacity. There's a limit to what they can do. But if we're looking at scaling up would also mean having more resources to do what they can do. How? In this, you painted a picture earlier of how Africa has to look inward because it's more like fend for yourself right now in the global system. America is looking at America, China having their own challenge, Europe having their challenge. So it's like the era where manna falls from heaven is almost over.
Oh, yes, we are in Canada already.
It's almost over. And if we also have a very complex situation of the states, by states I mean the countries, not doing their own bits to help these development banks. So where will the increased capacity come from?
Yeah, that's the point we're making. So the state themselves, and this is what Africa needs to do. We have to go back to those elementary principles of economics, which the trade by barter. You have what I don't have. And so I exchange what I don't have for what you have. And you in turn take what you don't have from me. That's the only way to develop trade. Now, if we specialize, for example, take Nigeria, specialize in producing rice. Ghana specializes in producing cocoa. Cameroon specializes in producing corn. Niger specializes in producing groundnuts. Then there become a robust trade amongst us. So, these countries are relying on your rice. And all these other countries are relying on this person's corn. All these other people are relying on this person's cassava. By the time we see, there'll be a robust trade among Africa. And so capacity will increase. But what we've seen in Africa is that we duplicate what each other is doing, and then we are expecting that we are going to trade with each other. And that's not going to be possible. So I think is what we need to do as Africans, especially the leaders of Africa, is to see how we invest in areas where we have absolute competitive advantage and develop that sector. Take, for example, Bangladesh has one sector their investment is, and that is in
Textile.
In garment alone, they are making up to 45 billion US dollars that they ship to Europe, ship to America, and everywhere. Because they have invested to develop that sector. All their institutions of learning is studying textile. And I think this is where Africa need to grow. And it is only when we are able to make enough resource that we can even contribute our quota to the banks. Because we are even funding the banks.
Yes.
And then the banks have so much money that they are not just only lending to Africa, that they can actually also lend to Europe.
That seemed like a very long shot. You know, all you just described about the trade by barter system and then Africa trading amongst themselves was supposed to be enhanced by the AFCFTA. But we see that itself is being stalled. There's disunity that is stalling it. There's the common currency issue that is stalling it. How do we overcome even that challenge of disunity? We seem to be the core of the issue. Yes, each African country has comparative advantage, but we will choose to compete and fight for one particular thing rather than developing a comparative advantage.
Yeah, but you see, in Africa, I think the quest for power is so lucrative that everybody seems to believe that the only way to survive and be successful is being in politics. And that's why Claudacre in his work emphasized the need to de-emphasize politics and put huge emphasis on wealth creation.
Have we gone past that era where it is possible to de-emphasize politics?
Yeah, but we have to deliberately get in there. And that's because what people get in politics, overnight you become a billionaire. So it's easier to concentrate energy. And so wealth creation becomes so tedious that people don't want to get engaged in them because Like in politics, it's just free money coming. So it's until we de-emphasize politics to say it's not as attractive as it used to be. If you go to people in the US, they tell you that they came into public office, they became poorer when they are coming out. Because the president knows what is due him per annum, 400,000 US dollars. So he knows. That's all he earns.
There are no allowances that are bigger than the salary itself.
So those who serve in the Senate, they understand that they are supposed to be rendering service to the nation and not to be empowering themselves.
Not to have fleets of cars as official vehicles for convoy.
So you see it. The only motivation for these guys to get into politics is that they develop capacity so that after office, they can become consultants to global leaders.
So it's more like a training process.
Yes, for them. But here in Africa, it seems to be avenue to make the whole of wealth. And so they tell you in the US, if you want to be rich, then you go to Wall Street.
And do some trade.
Oh, yes. So that is what it is. And until we start to emphasize that in our continent, the people are not over-relying on what comes from politics alone, where all we do on a daily basis is determine how to share the small cake. And nobody is making effort to build a bigger cake so that, of course, it can go around everybody. We will continue to move around in this circle. And I think that's where we are missing it. So what that means is that the bigger your elephant project, the more opportunity for you to make more money from the state. And so you can put it, a project that you know that in 20 years is not going to finish, and you start it, and you are putting money inside it, and you can actually measure your level of success on some of those projects. And these are problems in Africa, and we are not living according to our means.
Yeah, there's a lot that Africa needs to do. If we're talking about stretching the capacity or upscaling for the multilateral development banks, then it needs the cooperation of African states as well to ensure that there is a clear plan on what we want to do. And so it is not because money is available, we just bring on any project that we feel will help secure the money. But there should be plans on what this money will be used for, how do we repay back so that the development spreads round. And for the mandate that the banks have, which is to support integration in Africa. Now, there has to be integration, whether or not we agree or we like it or not. Yesterday, we talked about Niger Republic asking for PMS, premium motor spirits supply from Nigeria. Before that time, there'd been the relationship, the diplomatic relationship between Nigeria and Niger Republic had become frosty because of the ECOWAS situation. But little did they know that a time will come when they will need what Nigeria supplies. The same thing for other African countries. We all can actually make up our supply internally if we understand the role that the AFCFTA is to play and we give our support. And I think that, as Doc has said, we should be the one telling these development banks what way to go, where we need their support, so that the limited resources they have can be productively used. And that would also inspire other organizations that want to support to put in their money. But if they see that money so far that has been committed by the development banks haven't yielded much results, haven't done much because they've been siphoned by the African states leaders, they've been embezzled, then we do not expect that it becomes attractive for foreign donors, for foreign partners to want to put in money. We should understand that at the end of the day, if we don't make use of the resources, Africa stands to suffer for it, because when we talk about infrastructure deficit, it's going to take a lot of money to bridge the gap of infrastructure deficit that Africa has. So the little money that these development banks are bringing in, we cannot afford to blow it, waste it. We must be creative on how we use it. Unity is key if we must achieve progress in Africa. Having said that, we'll move on to the next story, which talks about Nigeria, Brazil, signing $8 billion Green Initiative Partnership. So on Monday, both countries signed the $8 billion Green Initiative and Investment Plan that targets agricultural revolution in Nigeria's 774 local government areas. The agreement was witnessed by the Vice President of Nigeria, Kashim Shettima, and it was signed by Carlos Gasset, Ambassador of Brazil to Nigeria, and Aliyu Abdullahi, who was Minister of State for Agriculture. So, it's a partnership cooperation between both countries that aims to modernize and strengthen Nigerian agricultural sector by harnessing Brazilian tropical agriculture technology and knowledge. It's a good one for agriculture. Anything that will improve food security in Nigeria, ensure that Nigeria is able to earn more from export is welcome. It's a welcome development. However, how do we plan to implement this? What areas do we want to put this technology to use, and what would be the benefit for Brazil that's bringing this technology?
Well, if you look at it, Nigeria, Brazil, we were together in the non-aligned movement, and Brazil was actually looking up to Nigeria for leadership, because in the 1970s we were the leader.
How times have changed, and situations have turned.
So the tides are turned. And I think this is one lesson that we must learn. It's important and nice that we are having this conversation, signing an agreement on how Brazil can help Nigeria in terms of sustainable agricultural practice across the 774 local governments in Nigeria. But it's also to see what Brazil has done in terms of investment in agricultural research, so that they are able, through investment in research, to adapt the agricultural practices to their climatic condition. We have almost similar climatic condition that these guys are able to turn their savanna into very productive agricultural environment. And I remember, if you remember, when Audogbe was the Minister of Agriculture, he actually once proposed that we go to Brazil to get grasses.
So they've been doing a lot with agriculture for a long time.
For a long time. And this is what it is. Now, you look at it. We have NIFO, or palm research. We have Rubber Research Institutes. The question to ask is, how are we funding these agencies? We have what they call river basin authorities. What is the funding level for this agency? What is the level of their oversight? Because I'm not thinking Brazil is going to, they can value the technology, but then of course you have to fund those things to ensure that this really work. And I don't think these are really rocket science. There's NIA in Ibadan. And we have so many of them scattered around Nigeria. But when you go there, there's nothing that is significantly happening. And again, from where we come from a while ago, is the fact that leaders are not prioritizing economic development, food production. And as long as we have access to other people's what they are doing, and of course we have the oil money to share to be able to buy it, we're good. And this is why when recently the borders are open for grains to come into Nigeria, it was really very worrisome. And people are having to say, oh, you see, we cannot stay here for too long. But you ask yourself, for example, basic grain like maize, it takes like 3 or 4 months
So why can't we have that maybe 3 times a year?
Yeah, rice, same. So we have the land that we can actually invest in. But the question that's begging for an answer is that, are we ready to make this investment? Growing up as a child, the Ministry of Agriculture has what they call extension workers. And the role and the goal of extension workers, as remote as my village was, they come to teach farmers new method of planting. They come to introduce new seedlings, which are product of research. And all these were done to help farmers adopt new mode of agriculture. What happened?
Let's even look at some of the development institutes that you've mentioned that are supposed to help with agriculture. There is NIFO. There is the Okumu Oil Palm Research. There is the River Basin. So what has been the contribution of these organizations or these institutions towards agriculture? You know, when we talk about the link between the town and the gown, we cannot overemphasize that right now because of how relevant it is. So it seemed more like there is no sustainability. The river basin is set up, yet we have problem of irrigation in several areas, particularly in the north where agriculture seems to be the mainstay because of the desertification ongoing in some parts of it. What has been the conscious effort or intentional effort made so far to ensure that we have the River Basin Authority looking in that direction as finding a way of how there can be constant water supply for farmers in that area that is not so expensive for them to have? And then for the Oil Palm Research Institute, what are we doing exactly to improve our oil palm production? That right now, we are importing oil palm from, or palm oil from other states, other countries, because we're not producing enough. Yet we have an institute that's supposed to research oil palm production. They are producing theirs, but it is not even enough to supply the local market, let alone export. And there was a time in Nigeria where we had the advantage in oil palm production that even Malaysia had to come and get the seeds and the technology from us. But right now, the reverse is the case. Are we doing enough with institutes? You know, when we talk about government being a continuum, this is part of the reason, so that when institutions are set up for a particular purpose, over time, we don't relegate them, we don't abandon their use, and they're just there as, you know, an agency. Salaries are paid to the workers, not enough funding is being committed, and even when funding is committed, who supervises what happens? Who looks at the role that they are playing in the agricultural sector overall? Or are they just working independently, doing their little bit, contributing their little quota? Should we continue like that over time? So these are areas that we need to look at, because it is a good initiative now that we're partnering with Brazil. But what happens after 1 year, after 2 years? The 774 local government areas, who is going to supervise? Now, this normally should fall within the purview of the local government chairman. But what is the plan to ensure that there's sustainability of these technologies? Now, when we talk about agriculture, Brazil has developed a lot of agri-tech solutions. They've even gone as far as using blockchain, artificial intelligence to improve agriculture. But we have our institutions of learning. What is their contribution? Researches are done. Are we ensuring that the research is available for those who are on the field? The farmers know what has happened, what new technology has come in. Even in the aspect of seed development, there's the GMO now, but there is also those, we also have those who are talking about the genetically modified crops or produce not being so healthy. Are there better ways to do it so that we can boost yield? Is this available to the farmer on the field? How do we connect the dots?
Multi-billion-dollar questions.
Yes.
And I think the only way we can find answers and solutions to some of these questions is also having people who are intentional, people who really value agriculture to champion those ministries and agencies, so that we're not just getting to work for paychecks alone. That people are going to work because they have a passion to grow that industry. Now, the neglect that these areas are suffering is a very key issue. The government are not actually focusing on some of all these issues. Even beyond the research institutes, we also have agricultural universities.
Federal agricultural universities
that are supposed to be producing manpower for these institutes.
Many of them are in the offices.
So, for us, to use the word of Mesa Otabi, we are more Esau nation, only interested in ready to eat.
But that narrative should change.
And we are not willing to cultivate. Because cultivation requires patience. Because you're not going to eat it today. So the reason why we're not investing so much in human capital development is that you cannot see the results immediately.
Is it that we're not investing in human capital development, or we're not innovatively investing in human capital development? You mentioned the universities of agriculture. That's human capital development.
Yeah, but you see, the university is there. And then you need to go to those universities and see the level to which research is funded. Now, when you look at the University of Agriculture, for example, in Nigeria, what products can you say is coming from the institution?
Some of them have poultries.
How many crates of egg are they able to sell? Now, these are the questions that you have to ask yourself, because there's no intentionality on the part of government to actually invest in these institutions. Just like the regular university, same thing. Funding is a problem. And the reason why we are not funding this institution is exactly what I'm alluding to. The politician wants something that they can use in campaign. So it's easier for them to say, oh, I built this road. I changed this electricity pole from wood to concrete. That's what the electorate can easily relate with or relate to. But when you say, oh, I've invested in building human capital, the electorates are looking at where the capital is. And they can't find it because it's intellectual property. So this is the dilemma politics found itself in our climate. And so, because if you invest, you are not likely to get the return, even in your tenure. It can be 10 years, it can be 15 years, it can be 20 years.
And the politician would want the results attached to their names.
Yes. So the breakthrough can come immediately. And so it cannot become handy for you during campaigns to say, oh, this is what I've done. So you're trying to see things that people can see. So you can go and build stadium where people don't even play football.
Are we part of the problem in this? Is the society part of the problem in this? What we assess, what we approve and consider to be progress. You talked about if the politician is to say, I invested in human capital development, the question would be, what is human capital development? Is it that we haven't grown to know what human capital development is and appreciate its importance, to be able to value investment in human capital development? Are we a physically moved people that it is when we see structures on the ground, things we can point to, tangible things that may not actually give us more value than the intangible is that a societal problem? Is it also an educational problem?
Well, I don't think it is. If you follow the trend of the elections in 2023, a lot of people who were rooting for Peter Obi were not rooting for him because he had fantastic infrastructural development. A lot of people who rooted for him was the fact that he can tell people that when he became the governor of Anambra State, for example, in terms of performance in WAEC, they were number 26. And by the time he was leaving, he has moved them to number 1.
But we won't count that as anything.
Yeah. Yeah, but...
No, I'm saying that people will not really applaud that.
At the time he was a governor, people didn't see the relevance. But benefit of the hindsight, people can say that, oh, that's really true. Anambra used to be 26. They actually came to number 1. So which means there was something he did. And that's why people say, for any shift in paradigm, in the time that is being conceived, people don't welcome it. They don't welcome that shift. People will only appreciate it years later. You understand it? When Galileo said the earth was fair as a way of thinking, if you follow Thomas Kuhn's book, The Structure of Scientific Revolution, the church excommunicated him for standing against the things that the church believed at the time, that the earth was flat. But today, we all know that you will not study geography without anybody telling you that Galileo said and discovered that the earth was spherical. Now, what it means is that at the time you are introducing these changes, people are not going to appreciate it. But the truth is that they will outlive your relevance. But this is why a lot of people also have been thinking that this two-term or two-tenure political system is also affecting us. That if political leaders, for example, are not considering a second tenure, chances are that they are going to do better.
But there is the argument, too, that one tenure may not be enough to put structures on the ground and finish the work or establish the work that they've done. So you still have people who tell you that when a leader has done what they say, give the person another tenure to finish the work, to complete. If we have this particular leader for another tenure, we would benefit so much more.
I think I will follow the words of the Esama of Benin, who once argued that if a student fails, he's given the opportunity to repeat. So those who are repeating are people who have failed. and that's the truth, and that for me is the reality. It's people who fail that repeat.
But we have many who are repeating class globally.
Yes.
There's also Donald Trump who's repeating class.
Yeah, so because, take for example, even in our country here, there's no leader that is celebrated since independence, much more than Murtala Mohammed, with monuments named after him all across the Federation. How long did he rule? Murtala Mohammed was just a president for 6 months. So if Murtala Mohammed can make impact in 6 months, 4 years is too long for anybody to make a desired impact. And I just feel that what people argue for is because of the perks that comes with that office. You know, your aides, the motorcade, the security, And all the manner of things that you enjoy for being the president or being the governor is what is actually making people to think about second term, not necessarily in terms of achievement. But you also need to track it, that most governors do well in their first term than they do on second term.
They share it now. First term is for the people. Second term is for them.
Now you are speaking my language.
Okay, before we move on to the next conversation, let's still look at Brazil, what they've been able to do. So currently, they have more than 1,700 agri-tech startup companies that are providing solutions. So we have tech companies here too in Nigeria, tech startups. We've always talked about providing local solutions rather than do more of the copy and paste solution that we see. Yes, they're doing well, but how about working closely with the farmers, those who are in the agricultural sector, developing some technology? It may not be too sophisticated, but something that just makes the process easier, something that makes it faster, saves time, and also enhances the yield or production at the end of the day, and for a price that can be afforded by the farms. Can we also have farms having some form of collaboration to afford technology that one farm or one agriculturist may not be able to afford, so that we are able to improve what we do?
Yeah. You see, all these things are products of thinking. Like Toyota says, good thinking, good products. It will start with a good vision. That when people have good vision and they have a destination that they are hoping to reach, it is easier to arrive at that destination because you have put things, structures in place, you have put systems in place that will help and aid you to get to that destination. But when there is no destination, like it is said in Alice in the Wonderland, any road take you there. And so we are here because we don't have a direct destination. So any road take us to anywhere. And I think that's the bigger problem. You ask most African states and say, what is our global vision? What exactly do we want to become? Because once you have that vision work or clearly written out, then you channel the most of your resource toward that direction. And so what you have is that you find agencies of government who are having multiple visions, because at the center, there's actually nothing that we are driving at achieving. But when you see Brazil, they were intentional about agriculture.
Very
intentional about agriculture. And so they channel every energy to developing that sector. And of course, we are seeing the results. And this is what we also need to do. Because, number one, we have the lands. We have the people. Young population. Vibrant and active. But how are we going to channel their energy so that they can do things creatively in the area of agriculture is a big challenge. But what have you seen is that young people, they are not encouraged or motivated to go the side of agriculture, and everybody is in the city looking for a job, white-collar job that does not exist.
Another thing is modeling. Why the young people don't seem interested in agriculture is modeling. What pictures have they seen of those who are involved in agriculture? They've seen pictures of people who work on the farm looking dirty, looking so stressed, and some of them have also seen how strenuous the work is. So that strain is what is even pushing some of them away. But if they see that there's technology involved and it's not as strenuous as they saw it or they pictured it, and they see people into agriculture looking good as well and making a lot of money, trust me, the young people want to get into it.
A blessing face on an agricultural magazine.
Oh yes, and we do have some of them.
I see the number of young people who want to come to that farm.
Yes, we do have some of them who are into it, and they found better ways, improved ways of having their practice, but there are not many. And many of them are not even sharing their stories. If they would do that, they would encourage a lot more people to get into it. So it's to say that we need to be intentional with anything we're doing. Even this partnership, we have to follow through and ensure that the knowledge is passed, the knowledge is preserved, the knowledge is improved upon. So we don't continue to rely on other countries for technology. Our institutions are here. What are they doing? We have our tech people. Is it not time to partner with them and perhaps tell them we need solution in this area so that we are asking them to customize one for us rather than just waiting for those who have grown their industry over time to sell us their technology that we may not even really use. Out of the 774 local governments, are we sure that we're going to have that technology in consistent use in all of them? Well, if we do, it will mean that there's more yield, more productivity for Nigeria's agricultural sector. I haven't talked about the local scene enough. When we return on policy discourse, it'll be time to look outside the shores of Africa. We'll take a look at what happens in Nigeria and in Africa, making comparison. But let's find out what happens in the UK in terms of the welfare of the people.
Anthony Onyemaechi Elumelu was born on the 22nd of March 1963 in Jos, North Central Nigeria, to Susanna and Dominic Elumelu, originally from Delta State. Tony earned a degree in economics from Ambrose Ali University, where he laid the foundation for his future career, and then furthered his education at the University of Lagos, where he obtained a master's degree in economics. His academic journey also includes attending the Harvard Business School, where he completed the Owner of President Management program, equipping him with advanced business management skills. Tony currently serves as the chairman of Ayers Holdings, Transcorp, and United Bank for Africa, UBA, demonstrating his significant influence in the banking and investment sector. He founded the Tony Elumelu Foundation, which aims to empower African entrepreneurs through comprehensive training, mentorships, and funding opportunities. In addition to his professional achievements, he's also a family man, married to Dr. Adele Vivian Elumelu, and together they have 7 children. In 2020, his efforts were acknowledged when he was named one of Time's 100 most influential people in the world. Anthony Elumelu's net worth is estimated to be around $700 million. A testament to his successful ventures and strategic investments. Elumelu continues to be a driving force in the business world, advocating for sustainable economic growth and empowering the next generation of African entrepreneurs.
What keeps the heartbeat of a community alive? Is it the courage to create, the power to connect, the vision to transform? Well, it's all of this and more. It's a symphony of ideas, innovation, and industry. But where do these stories come alive? It's right here on The Isle, 104.9 FM, the station where dreams meet action and growth finds its voice. The Isle, 104.9. Business, economy, development. Stay tuned. What keeps the heartbeat of a community alive? Is it the courage to create, the power to connect, the vision to transform. Well, it's all of this and more. It's a symphony of ideas, innovation, and industry. But where do these stories come alive? It's right here on The Isle, 104.9 FM, the station where dreams meet action and growth finds its voice. The Isle, 104.9. Business, economy, development. Stay tuned.
At the Africa Development Studies Center, ADSC, we are committed to driving sustainable growth and development across Africa through innovative training and research. Our mission: empowering leaders, policymakers, and professionals with the tools they need to create lasting change. With customized training, dynamic research programs, and study exchanges on leadership, management, and other critical development topics, ADSC offers a platform for exchanging cutting-edge ideas and global best practices. We provide comprehensive services in research and consultancy, capacity building and training, education programs, publishing, and knowledge sharing. Our esteemed faculty, composed of seasoned experts and researchers, ensures a learning experience that is insightful and practical. We specialize in policy development, implementation strategies, monitoring, and evaluation. At ADSC, learning is engaging and enjoyable. Our unique methodology includes talks, interactive exercises, games, video screenings, and lively seminar discussions, all in a comfortable and friendly environment. Ready to make an impact? For more information, email us at info@adstudycenter.com or call +234 912 439 2362. Visit us today at www.adstudycenter.com to explore our programs and upcoming events. Africa Development Studies Center, rethinking development for Africa.
All right, so let's move on to the UK right now, where the UK government is experiencing an increase in health and disability-related benefits. So the Prime Minister of UK, Keir Starmer, is planning to cut the spending on that, but there is opposition and there is suggestion that he should rather increase wealth tax instead of cutting the payment benefits for those who have one disability or the other. And further, what has been attributed to the increase in the health and disability benefits payment, it is said that mental illness, the cases of that is actually rising, leading to more need for benefits payments. So let's look at what's happening in the UK, the challenge that the UK Prime Minister finds himself, and how this is being interpreted, the plan to cut spendings on health and disability benefits. We have two gentlemen who will join in the conversation this morning virtually. We have Sijibumi Adebi Bennett, who's a social commentator and a Better Nigeria propagator. Also, there is Joseph Agbo, who is a solicitor of the Supreme Court of Nigeria, is a lawyer regulated by the SRA and UK. Thank you both for joining the show this morning. Hello, please, can you unmute your device so we can have the conversation? Hear me? All right, I'll give our guest just a bit of time to handle the technical issues so we can have our conversation. But my co-anchor is still in the studio with me. I never run solo, you know that, all right? So Dr. Dausa Samanze is in the studio with me. Looking at what's happening in the UK, it seems like whenever the government wants to do a particular thing that would have direct impact on the people negatively, government will present their own stand to say we need to cut, like what's happening in the UK, the Prime Minister saying we need to cut spending in order to ensure sustainability of this scheme. And then the people feel, oh, this is targeting vulnerable people. The situation in the UK.
Yeah, I think it's always like that, and you have these ideological poles between two parties. Why some people are advocating for this, and the other guys are moving toward these directions. And see the lobby group asking to say, what are we doing about this? Government is worried about increased spending, and of course, people are saying, oh, by the time you remove people from this, then of course, you're going to be creating poverty. And of course, that's the real conversation here. How will this help reduction of poverty? Will government need to increase more tax? And how will that affect businesses? I think these are the conversations that are ongoing, and this is a debate. And of course, I will see that in the floor of the House, how people are going to, on what side people are going to be, and which argument eventually will have the day.
Okay, well, if we look at what a report has said that has contributed to the increase or is contributing to the increase in the benefit payment is the rise in cases of mental illness. And this has been ongoing, not just in the UK, but in other parts of the world. We look deeply into that. What could have been the reason for that? Some experts also attribute that to have peaked during the COVID-19 pandemic era. But let's get with our guests and find out what your perspective is on the issue. Joseph Agbo, good morning. Hello, Joseph, good morning. Please, could you respond to the current situation in the UK where the Prime Minister wants to cut disability benefits because of, according to the UK government, they want to ensure that this is sustainable. But it seems more like the government versus the people in this case. What's your take? Well, I doubt Joseph can hear me, so I'm going to go on a break right now. When we return from the break, we continue our conversation.
Wale Soyinka, born Akiwande Oluwole Babatunde Soyinka on July 13, 1934, in Abeokuta, Ogun State, southwest Nigeria, stands as one of Africa's most celebrated literary figures and a global icon of resistance against oppression. His life and works reflect an unwavering commitment to justice, culture, and the transformative power of arts. Soyinka was born into a Yoruba family in colonial Nigeria, an environment that exposed him to both traditional African culture and Western education. His father, Samuel Ayodele Soyinka, was a school headmaster, while his mother, Grace Eniola Soyinka, was a devoted Anglican. This blend of indigenous and colonial influences deeply shaped Soyinka's world. Soyinka attended Government College Ibadan and later proceeded to the University College Ibadan, where he studied English and literature. Soyinka completed his education at the University of Leeds in England, earning a degree in English and later a doctorate degree. In the late 1950s, Soyinka began working as a dramaturgist at the Royal Court Theatre in London. However, his passion for storytelling and cultural preservation drew him back to Nigeria, where he founded two theatre groups known as the 1960 Masque and the Orisun Theatre Company. Soyinka's works, often a fusion of Western dramatic techniques and African themes, address universal issues of justice, freedom, and human dignity. His early play, titled A Dance of the Forest, which was introduced in 1960, written to celebrate Nigeria's independence, critically examined the nation's socio-political trajectory, setting the tone for his career as both artist and activist. Soyinka's activism became more visible during Nigeria's post-independence years. In 1967, during the Nigerian Civil War, he called for a ceasefire between federal forces and Biafran separatists. This led to his arrest by the military government, and he spent 22 months in prison, where he wrote a short drama titled The Man Died, Prison Notes, a harrowing account of his imprisonment and a profound critique of authoritarianism. Soyinka has authored more than 20 works, including plays, novels, poetry, and essays. In 1986, Soyinka became the first African to win the Nobel Prize of Literature, an achievement that brought global recognition to African literature. Soyinka remained an outspoken critic of oppressive regimes, often at great personal risk. His activism extended beyond Nigeria, addressing global issues of injustice and human rights. During periods of military rule in Nigeria, he went into exile, continuing to write and speak against tyranny. Today, Soyinka is celebrated not only as a literary giant, but also as a symbol of resilience and moral courage.
At the Africa Development Studies Center, ADSC, we are committed to driving sustainable growth and development across Africa through innovative training and research. Our mission: empowering leaders, policymakers, and professionals with the tools they need to create lasting change. With customized training, dynamic research programs, and study exchanges on leadership, management, and other critical development topics, ADSC offers a platform for exchanging cutting-edge ideas and global best practices. We provide comprehensive services in research and consultancy, capacity building and training, education programs, publishing, and knowledge sharing. Our esteemed faculty, composed of seasoned experts and researchers, ensures a learning experience that is insightful and practical. We specialize in policy development, implementation strategies, monitoring, and evaluation. At ADSC, learning is engaging and enjoyable. Our unique methodology includes talks, interactive exercises, games, video screenings, and lively seminar discussions, all in a comfortable and friendly environment. Ready to make an impact? For more information, email us at info@adstudycenter.com or call +234 912 439 2362. Visit us today at www.adstudycenter.com to explore our programs and upcoming events. Africa Development Studies Center, rethinking development for Africa.
Hello, Nigeria. Hello, Africa. Yeah, this is Sound Man. Keep watching Souq News.
My name is Babalola from Excel LED. Keep watching Souq News.
My name is Shepherd Michael Adewale Onofuye. I enjoy you all to always watch Souq News TV.
Hi, I'm Tom Bogaballs, and please keep watching Souq News.
Wale Seriki, SLG Lagos Island East, Souq News, keep out watching them and keep a lookout for them. They're up and coming, and we're proudly to be affiliated with them.
You alone where they make me go crazy. This your love in the cool of my brain. You're my medicine, I need you all day. Yo, it's Blackface Nigeria, and you're watching Souq News TV. Keep it locked on this dial, don't change it. You know what I say? Blackface Nigeria, love no bad.
Known as the father of African literature, Chinua Achebe was born on the 16th of November 1930 in Ogidi, now Anambra State, Eastern Nigeria. He was born to Isaiah Okafor Achebe, a teacher and an evangelist, and Janet Anenichi Iluebunam, a vegetable farmer. Achebe has reshaped the global understanding of African identity through the power of storytelling. raised during the twilight.
Many thanks for staying tuned to the front burners. This is Policy Discuss, and we have flown out of Nigeria into the UK right now just to have a conversation on the potential cuts to disability benefits, which is being proposed by the UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer, and the opposition is getting from the House, suggesting that he's targeting vulnerable people. And in his defense, he says that the disability benefit is unfair. Let's find out what our guest thinks. We have joining the conversation Joseph Agbo, who is a solicitor of the Supreme Court of Nigeria, a lawyer regulated by the SRA and UK. We also have Sijibumi Adebi Bennett, a social commentator and a better Nigeria propagator. They join virtually. Good morning again, gentlemen. Okay, I think that Sijibumi Adebi Bennett may be ready just to go with the conversation right away. We also wait for Joseph Agbo to join the conversation. So I'm going to start with Sijibumi. Now, what do you think is the situation with UK? Currently, the pay benefits yearly is put at £65 billion and is expected to increase to £100 billion in 4 years, which the Prime Minister says is unsustainable. What do you think? Hello, are you there? All right. So, Doc, earlier before we came back from the break, off air, you were saying that the welfare system is an encouragement to laziness. It seemed like you and Sir Keir Starmer had a meeting because the thinking here is alike, because he says that for those who cannot work, the benefits, they will have benefits. But for those who can work, they would help to provide work so that they don't get to be a burden or have to receive benefits.
Yeah, in my rating, I feel that, yes, welfare is good, but I don't think that the whole duty of government is to have to put almost everybody's earning on welfare, and therefore you have little left that you can actually invest in other areas that, of course, will benefit the larger part of society. Don't forget that, yes, people say, oh, if this happened, about 620,000 people will be affected. And what that will mean is that you are throwing people further into poverty. But it's also to appraise circumstances. That when people understand that, of course, you can get something from government and it's for free and you don't need to work for it, the motivation to work go down drastically. And so if government had to support people, you should be able to classify that at some who should be able to do one or two things that contribute productively to the economy. Otherwise, you will see that very soon our population is queuing up to receive this welfare benefit. And of course, you can only get it higher and higher and higher. And some of these people, especially when you look at even the mental cases, I'm sure that people are actually not using this benefit to go do drugs that also make them to come back to the same situation.
But so, in that case, the UK is a sophisticated and well-advanced country. Do you think the cause of mental breakdown or mental illness would not have been actually ascertained to know why these people were having mental breakdown and why they qualify for this benefit if it was just an issue of drug use?
Yeah, but if it's increasing, something would have been irresponsible. Yes. And I think it is finding out what the root cause is and addressing that root cause. You see, one of the things that you must need to understand is the mentality of the younger generation of people. I was saying to some set of youths on Sunday that you look at it, when you look at our society, for example, in Nigeria here, and you are seeing young people who are having mental issues. And some say, oh, they are resulting from depression. But a lot of them are associated with the use of substance. And so how do we deal with substance issues should be the focus of government so that we reduce the number of people who get into that circle. So rather than just openly put money on the ground to support people who are in that circle, and then a number of people are coming into that circle, and we're not addressing what makes people get into those areas. But you also see that there are some spaces where people who are physically challenged are as productive as they can be because some systems have been put in place to actually make them productive. I have a guy very close to my house. He's on both limbs, not walking, but the hands are walking. He sits on the wheelchair and he makes beautiful shoes. So he's earning. And this kind of encouragement we need to give to people because while you put money down and say you are trying to help the poor and the vulnerable, for me, it's a way of actually encouraging people to say, because once you understand that government is going to pay the bill, so why work?
Okay, so report shows that there are about 4 million people getting at least one of the disability benefits, about 10% of the working age population. So if you have about 10% of the working age population on at least one disability benefit, that's a lot because they are within the working age population. Well, let me agree a little with what you have said, which is that the social welfare system tends to encourage laziness, but not that it was intended to encourage laziness, but we found that because of the human nature where sometimes abuse is inevitable, particularly when the use of a thing is not known. But in this case, it is not that the use of the system was not known, it's just that people over time found it more convenient, more comfortable, particularly when people are out of job. They just feel, well, the period for which I'm out of job, I don't have to worry too much because when I have health issues, I can get benefit. But 10% should not be too much to over-labor the UK government. Is it an issue of the UK government not thinking creatively on how to generate more revenue? Yes, which the MPs are suggesting to the Prime Minister that he should rather focus on wealth tax instead of cutting the disability, the health and disability benefits. Yes, let's connect again with our guest, Joseph Agbo and Sijibumi Adibi. Hello.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. It's great to finally hear you.
Good to see you here.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Good morning, doctor. How are you,
sir? Very well. Good to have you here.
Thank you, thank you. Can you come again?
Okay, so the question is this. With the situation in the UK, what's your take on the Prime Minister moving to cut the health and disability benefits under the premise that it is unsustainable for the UK government?
I can't hear you at all. I didn't hear your question.
We're trying to find out your take on Prime Minister Starmer's move to cut down on disability benefits because he feels it's not sustainable in the UK.
Well, okay, thank you for the question. And the truth is that when it comes to these disability benefits, right, it covers a very wide range. There's the aspect of physical disability, there's the aspect of mental disability, and so on and so forth. However, some of these conditions, let me not use the word so-called, some of these conditions, they are not such that could prevent people from working, right? However, if you give people benefits and tell them take care of their needs and there's no need, they don't see the need to work, then they're not going to do it. Like, human beings, generally speaking, will always abuse systems, will always, stretch things to their limits. So what they are saying is that it's not as if they are taking out benefits totally or cutting benefits But certain categories, when people have the ability to work, then they should be encouraged to work. As a matter of fact, one thing I've come to understand in life is that the fact that somebody is docile, right? For instance, somebody is suffering from depression or from other mental condition. The fact that they are docile and their brain is not active will only make them worse. I give you example. From my experience with, I'm not, of course, I'm not a professional. I'm not a medical professional. But my experience with my maternal grandmother, the day she stopped working, that was the day she started dying, because what it means is that the brain is not active. And when you don't actively engage your brain, what happens? It starts declining. So it's not that they are taking out the benefits totally, but they are doing a review and certain conditions. Some people, if they can work, an assessment is done that these people can work, then they should go and work. So I think it's a welcome development. And so, to be honest, it's unlike labor, because labor, generally speaking, their welfare is in by nature. You understand what I mean? So I think it's a good development.
Yeah. Some people also argue that Kestama is struggling with raising funds and the rest of it, and is just looking for an easy way out of trouble. What do you think?
Of course, the government always needs more and more money. There's no two ways about it. I think from what I heard is that they're trying to raise the budget for defense spending, and there are two ways they can do that. That they either cut down their current and expenditure or raise taxes, and that is, some people have suggested they should introduce this so-called wealth tax and stuff like that. Of course, it's about raising more money. So there are two ways: you either cut down what you pay out at the moment, or find way to source more revenue.
All right, so let's look at what is covered under the UK disability benefit. So I'm taking this question now to Sijibomi. Uh, what's what is the coverage of the UK disability benefit? And in what way do you think is going to affect people if the spendings on the benefit is reduced?
I didn't hear anything you said. If doctor can reiterate what.
Okay. All right, let's have a doc interact.
Okay. We're looking at what the government is putting money into in terms of these disability benefits. The health secretary is talking about overdiagnosis. Is it that we're not doing enough to actually identify those who need it? Or there are leakages somewhere?
I think, with everything in life, you have to do evaluation and re-evaluation. So if they've re-evaluated, I don't know the process. Of course, like I said, it's not my field. I'm not a medical doctor, so I don't know the determining factor to determine those who are eligible for this or eligible for that. But I'm sure they are doing their re-evaluation, and they've realized that some of those people who get these benefits should not get it, or should not get as much, and they should be encouraged to work. And I'm up for that. People should be encouraged to work, because, again, like I said before, when you sit idle, even that ability you have will be taken away from you. I'm not trying to sound religious, but even in the Bible talks about three servants who was given 5 talents, if my theology is correct, and then one 2 talent, and then the third servant was given 1 talent. The one that had 1 talent, the fact that he didn't even use what he had and he went to bury it, what happened was that his ability, that is talent, that ability that he had was taken away from him. That's what works in life generally. So some of those people, if an evaluation is done and it's saying that, yes, ADHD is very wide. It covers a wide range of spectrum, right? But despite people having some of these conditions, they're still able to work. And getting engaged in work actually helps them, It doesn't reduce them in it actually helps their mental health. So when you don't work, what that means is that you're always locked up at home. There's nothing. You don't engage your brain. You don't engage yourself. So you at the end of the day, what you discover that you are actually declining.
Okay, let me take this to Bennett. Let me take this question to Bennett. The government is saying that what is currently being paid on disability benefit is actually doubled to what people who are seeking job get from government. And the reason why they want to cut this is to ensure that people can be motivated to re-enter work. What is your take, Bennett?
Good morning to you, viewers, and good morning to the Hancock in the studio and to you, Doctor. I think Mr. Joseph has spoken extensively about this. And for me, I also told the line of the review of the Disability Act because it's a kind of encouragement and it's a kind of motivation for the workforce. We have situations whereby, and I've experienced that personally, whereby I have colleagues who have a form of disability, but still work. And I used to have a colleague that intermittently had his hands shake, but because he was due, he was eligible, but because he just wanted to work, he believes in the satisfaction that work gives. He continued to work, and it helped him in so many ways as well. And this is someone that under every condition he was eligible. I had someone as well who was like a superior who had a limp in one of the legs, and he was also eligible, but he wanted to work. And so many times, like what happened when Kemi Badnoch spoke about um, reviewing the Immigration Act, whereby there should be extension in the time that you spend before you get your high LR, that's indefinite leave to remain, and before you can even apply for a UK passport. And I had one British lawyer, Mr. Olawanle, who is also of Nigerian descent, get into a very informative approach and another perspective, which was very, very sound to me. And he told Kemi at that time that the focus should be on getting a lot of people that are on benefits back into the workforce, because the English people are the ones that will contribute to the workforce and build the English nation. Every nation will be built by the citizens. No nation can wholeheartedly and ultimately depend on immigrants. You have to build your nation yourself. So in a situation whereby you have and it's a mix, it's a balance. You have immigrants coming at the same time you have your citizens doing the work that they need to do as well. So in this situation, we need to review. I believe we need to review so that people who work 35 years, 40 years, look at the NHS, you have people who are doing phenomenally every year, every day, and you have these people, and they look at others who are also eligible to work, but because of um, something that is not so serious, for I'm very particular with choice of word, because if after review is not safe, the safety is not compromised, people's safety, people's and property safety is not compromised, then why not get them back into the workforce, review it, even if they have to work for a few hours a week, let them also contribute. So that's my take on that.
All right, okay, let me go back to Joseph. Looking at over 620,000 people that will be affected by these rate cuts, what kind of measure do you think that the Starmer's government should put in place to reintegrate these people into the workspace?
Okay. First and foremost, there are certain jobs that do not require extensive training. That is number one. Number two, if they are going to they are kind of course there are certain jobs that require some form of training. The truth is that currently in the UK in a lot of sectors are reliant on immigrants, like my friend mentioned. You know, you discover that they brought out schemes to bring in people to do the for the health and care industry. There was a time during the time of Boris Johnson, they had to bring in people who drive these HVQ vehicles or whatever they're called and stuff like that. So there are certain jobs that require proper training. There are certain jobs that with just one or two shadowing, like they call it, you can get on with it. So yeah, there are a lot of job vacancies in the UK. Like I said, if we do have a lot of job vacancies that we have to get people from outside the UK to fill in some sector, then we can as well integrate some of these people that are able to do the job but are just capitalizing on the benefit system to sit down and just get them organized, boot camps or whatever the case may be, trainings for those people and get them integrated into the workforce.
Extend this because you also have argued, because some people have also alluded to the fact that the recent meetings between Boris Starman, Trump on the one hand, and the Starman and the Ukrainian president on the one hand is what is actually necessitating this move to invest so much in military so that NATO can be sustained. Now, should the United Kingdom citizens who are receiving benefits from government be the one to suffer this overly ambition of Keir Starmer?
I don't think it's. I don't agree with the use of the word that they are going to. They're going to. They are suffering because of this. No, it's actually helping them. Doc, let me tell you something. There are sicknesses that are associated with being idle. For instance, if you are not active, then the chances of developing obesity is very, very high. When you are not active, the chances of getting more and more depressed is very, very high. But when you are engaged, then the chances of these things, I'm not a medical doctor, but at least I know these from general observation and general knowledge. So aside from the fact that there's need to increase defense spending, right? But there is also need for people to be actively engaged because it then reduces the burden on the NHS. Because being idle comes with a lot of side effects. And at the end of the day, it is the NHS that, of course, like everybody knows, the NHS is free in the UK, right? Um, the people that they bears the brunt is the NHS, which goes back to the government. So from any angle, whether it's just to raise more money for defense spending or defense budget, as the case may be, or whatever the case may be, it is actually necessary this move is made. Get people actively engaged if they are able to. So we should give my own perspective is this: we should give help to those who need it. We should give help to those who need it. Those who don't need it, get them into the workforce. So whatever the case may be, whether it's defense spending, obviously we cannot downplay the need to increase defense, to increase security and stuff like. We can't downplay it because no matter what a country achieves, one insecurity crisis can cause a lot of damage rather. So why there's need to increase defense spending, but it's also a welcome development if we need to get those who need to get into work, get them back to work.
CG Bennett, my colleague is asking, because we're looking at here, currently put at about 65 billion pounds for this disability benefit, likelihood that is increasing to 100 billion pounds annually. And people are arguing that, look, we can resort to wet tax. What will be the implication of a wet tax on the entire United Kingdom economy?
Yes, the wealth tax is another avenue to raise money. And even in Nigeria, there was a time whereby that was also mentioned, and taxes on champagne, taxes on very expensive cars were, mentioned, and were mentioned to be reviewed. But having said that, we cannot just depend on wealth tax, and don't forget that the rich and the wealthy are also the ones very close to government, very close to political leaders, and everybody tries as much as possible to protect their interest and to preserve their interest. So sometimes it gets very difficult if it's too much on them. So, and because they do a lot of promises, grants, and all that during campaigns, they also want their own interest to be protected. So it's neither here nor there. Even if you do a wealth tax, like my brother were talking yesterday, and he said there was a time that when he was in school, and I think it was Lib Dem at that time that they voted for, because they were promised that tuition was going to be removed, and they were promised so many things. And what they realized was that when the party came into power, they removed um, 1p or something. I can't remember the way he said it, on for students. When you go to the pub, what to pay, they removed that. But at the same time, it was a percentage removal, but there was a way they also increased the price of the shot, so it balances out. So wealth tax cannot really do what the UK wants. They've increased the tax on workers' wages. That has not really worked. And don't forget the fact that every country now has to defend itself. America, which has been an ally for the West for a very long time, is focusing more on America because of the policy of the present government. So it's America first. So in every way, every country must think towards that direction now. We must protect ourselves. So the UK is right. The government is right in trying to get more money for defense, because there are so many threats from different places. So they must raise that money, it must come from somewhere. So apart from wealth tax, can we get productivity? It's a win-win situation. Get productivity from people who can still be productive. They get more money into the system, get more revenue, and those people themselves also get the satisfaction of getting of providing for their country, of contributing to the GDP of their country, and at the same time being active, living a fulfilled life, living better life. Because, like Joseph said, there is a relationship between some diseases and indolence. So once you are not indolent, once you can walk and you walk, there is probability that some things, some ailments are not going to come near you.
Now let's look at the ability of the UK government to get some people back to work. So if you look at it from during the COVID-19 era, the number of people who were on the disability benefit increased. Some people were out of jobs. Some people came down with one or two illnesses, like you've mentioned, how idleness contributes to that. So if the government is getting back those who are of working age back to work, how feasible is that? My question is directed at Bennett.
Okay, I didn't get your question, but if what you mean is the ability of the government to get people who are.
My question is, what is the chance of the government getting those who are of working age off the disability benefits and finding them a job? Is it feasible to achieve that?
Yes, fantastic. That's the same thing we're talking about here. Yes, the government has the ability to do that, and that's why they're trying to review this now. So instead of having more immigrants coming to the country, I'm not anti. anti-immigrant. I came into the UK myself, and I've been through the master's route. And even though I did not intend to stay at first, but eventually, for one reason or the other, I stayed back, and I shuttle Nigeria and the UK for now because I have business interest in Nigeria as well. So, but what we're saying is, instead of getting more people, more than the economy can sustain, into the workforce in the UK, review the disability hat, get people to take up some jobs that the immigrants are coming to do. In that way, productive time is not wasted. What do I mean? People come into the country without, from countries that are not even English speaking countries. Communication is a problem, and productivity is lost because they need to learn how to communicate first before they can even get to work. That's one. Number two is, um, there's so many roles in the UK now that it's a shortage. NHS is, it's just struggling. Um, Even at the point after COVID-19, there was shortage in the logistics industry. So, but if the government can encourage people to get back to work, if it is not, like I emphasize on that, if it's not going to compromise their safety and other people's safety, after thorough review, the people that can be gotten back to the workforce, if they get them back to the workforce, then the government will not need to do so much. They won't need to waste so much money, and they can get much money for the country.
Now, let me take this now to Joseph Agbo. On the issue of wealth tax, we didn't know that that could also come with the implication of discouraging investments and people also having evading by having tax havens. How do you think the UK government can balance this?
Well, for the record, I am not in support of wealth tax because, in my opinion, that will amount to double taxation. What do I mean by that? So, if I've worked for years, okay, let's first and foremost understand what wealth tax is. Wealth as tax, usually it's a one-off. They'll say, okay, we'll tax all the rich. If you have, let's say, for example, they can put a cap. If you've got your net worth is, say, for instance, £500,000 upwards, will tax you 1% of your total wealth, right? Wealth tax is not um, placing taxes or increasing taxes on certain products, right? Wealth tax has to do with taxing people based on their assets. It's usually one of their assets, their net worth, and so on and so forth. So the problem with that is that wealth tax may amount to double taxation. Let me give you an example. I'm a business person, or probably I'm a worker. I've worked all these years. I've paid my taxes. I've been able to, I was prudent. I was able to save money and then use the money to buy property. Don't forget that before I could save that amount of money, I'd already paid tax. But now you want to come and tax me on my assets. So that would amount to double taxation. Number two, how do you then even do it? Because there are certain wealth that are not liquid in nature. What do I mean is that they are not cash. So let me give you an example. Somebody maybe has got a huge land but does not have cash in the bank, and you want to tax the person, say 1% or 2% of the value of that property. So when the person does not have the liquid cash, what does that mean? It means that you force the person to sell some of their assets to pay that that uh, that so-called wealth tax. So I'm not in support of wealth tax. That will, like I said before, because that would be double taxing. Whoever is wealthy that has some assets is because it's the money that they saved or the resources they saved after paying tax. That's the money, the resources they use in acquiring such assets. So I don't believe in wealth tax, and I'm a member of the Conservative Party. So I think if that comes on the floor, we're going to oppose it seriously.
So how do you think those, if it comes on the floor and let's say it scales through, there's no strong enough opposition to that, what do you think will be the implication in terms of the economy suffering? Will the economy suffer for it? Will it be a discouragement to investments? What's your take?
Well, it will not be a discouragement to investment in the sense that it's not tax on investment, it's not tax on income, it's tax on assets you already own, right? It's not going to be, I don't see that's a discouragement to investment. However, I just feel it's not fair because it will amount to double taxation. Already, if you look at the taxing system in the UK, for instance, now if you earn between 0.0 to around 12,000 something is 0%. If you earn between 12,500 to 50,000, I mean, your income of 12,000 to 50,000, you're taxed about 20%. If your income between 50 to 125, you're taxed about 40%. And then over 125,000, you're taxed about 45%. So whoever is wealthy already before then, either them, the person directly or their family already paid higher threshold of tax over the years. That I'm saying all things being equal that they are paying the correct tax though. They've already paid higher threshold of tax over the years. And then you now want to tax them on their assets. For me, I don't think it is fair, and I don't see it seeing the light of day.
Thank you so much, Joseph Agbo, who is a solicitor of the Supreme Court of Nigeria, a lawyer regulated by the SRA and the UK, for your time on the show this morning. And we're also grateful that Sijibomi Adebiyi Bennett, social commentator and a better Nigeria propagator, could join the conversation as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's go to break. When we return, it's time to move from the UK to the US. Stay with us.
The National Theatre, Igomu, built during the military regime of Olusegun Obasanjo and finished in the time for the Second World Festival of Black Arts and Culture, FESTAC, in 1977. The theatre holds amazing treasures and memories. The artworks fill everyone with pride. The National Arts Theatre is visible from the motorway which connects Lagos Island and the mainland. The National Theatre is packed with the artworks of a legendary contemporary Nigerian artist, stained glass walls by Yusuf Grillo, sculptures and murals by Lamidi Fakeye, Erabo Emopai, and many others. It was put to full use for a month as one of the 4 venues of the Second World Black and African Festival of Arts and Culture, tagged FESTAC 77. The complex hosted 16,000 participants from 56 African countries and the diaspora in an unprecedented showcase of African music, fine art, literature, drama, dance, and religion. The National Art Theatre was built and designed by Techno Expert Stroll, a Bulgarian company mirroring the Palace of Culture and Sports in Varna, Bulgaria. Completed in 1976, the building is one of the largest and most beautiful of its kind on the African continent. It consists of a central hall with 5,000 seats, a collapsible stage that can be quickly rebuilt, a conference hall with 1,600 seats, 2 large exhibition halls, and 2 cinemas with 800 seats each.
All right, now let's talk about what's going on in the U.S. with young people, as report says that the confidence of young people in the apparatus of government in the U.S. has dropped significantly, and it is seen to be one of the lowest one of the lowest levels in a long time. Talking about this today, we have Ani Saike, who is the managing director in Timirate F. Great to see you again, Ani Saike.
Good morning, ma'am. It's very good to see you as well. Thank you for having me. It's very late in Los Angeles, and I was listening to the previous discussion on taxation, and I can't help but think that that issue translates very well to the issues around the U.S. and around youth movements.
Thank you, Ali. And so sorry for keeping you to be awake at this very late in the night.
Seems slow and tired. You know why.
All right, let's look at why it seems like young people in the US are losing confidence in the government. So a poll was conducted, and it's the survey revealed that 70,000 people globally over the course of 2023 and 2024 found that less than a third of people under 30s in the US trust the government. So the proportion of US young people who said they lack freedom to choose what to do with their lives also hit a record high at 31% in 2024. So let's take it from the new administration in the US, the presidency or the administration of Donald Trump. Now, once he assumed office, there were executive orders, there were directives that were made. And then there were some other policies. One of them is the gender policy, where the government recognizes just male and female gender. Anything outside of that, the government does not recognize. Could we say that's one of the reasons why young people feel they're not left with the right to decide what to do with their lives, what to identify as? Hello, Ali, Sake, are you there?
My own self, for my I have a daughter who's going to middle school right now, and just yesterday I went to a reading by a book reading by a woman, Sonali Kolhi, and who recently published a book called "Don't Wait: Three Girls Who Fought for Change and Won." And this book, it tells the stories of three young girls of color who have been at the forefront of local struggles. But primarily advocating for environmental justice and LGBTQ rights. Of course, this narrative translated or segued immediately into into this period with Trump, and it's I think it's fairly clear that for young people today, especially of a certain generation of middle school, high school, college, that that the issue um, of sexual orientation or of identity politics, has become a very primary issue. I think for those who are in college, at the university, um, my sense is that the people are more centered around issues around, for example, Palestine. This the genocide, these the more global engagement um, of Israel and Palestine is much more galvanizing and much more immediate than um, LGBTQ, or to some degree even environmental justice, which has really taken a back seat um, um, to activists.
Thank you, Annie. Looking at the data from the Gallup poll suggests that this data was collected between 2023 and 2024. How do you think that this has some sentiment to play in the last election in the U.S.?
Yes, absolutely. There's there, people are very very resistant to Donald Trump, to this election, and of course, all of his executive agreements that have been signed, especially in his first like month in office, I think scared a lot of people. A lot of people really, especially like a lot of young people, people who really began to pe- people who take their rights for granted and suddenly realize that, oh, these rights and our identities, could really become undermined, and we could very much lose our identity, um, or our, especially in terms of gender identity. That I think that terrifies a lot of people of a particular generation. I mean,
Looking at trust and confidence. Okay, Annie, can you hear me?
yes.
Looking at trust and confidence, it sits on three core drivers: authenticity, logic, and empathy. Which of these legs you feel is weakest in the American society today among the political leaders?
Um, um, okay, so what's some logic, and what were the other two?
And then, of course, authenticity.
Um, I think it's very this lack of trust that's that I think many people have in the United States right now really does come from a lack of trust of the media. And I think, part of that has a lot to do, obviously with social media. I don't actually know how many young people get their news um, from any of the from major newspapers these days. So depending on but I one of the things that I was interested in terms of the poll, and I wasn't able to spend a lot of time, you know, delving into the Gallup poll and looking to see what the sources are. But if they were from the newspapers, and if they were targeting, if they were interviewing data from those who are reading the newspapers, I think that's a minority compared to the amount of people who are getting their news off of social media.
The point I'm trying to make is, do you think young people feel that leaders are not authentic, they are not their real selves, or that they feel that leaders can solve their problems, or that they simply feel that they don't care about them? Which of these three arguments do you think would have been responsible for this lack of trust among the youths in the United States?
Certainly, like all three of them. I mean, I don't think it's. I think the question, it's a loaded question, obviously, right? I mean, to say that there's that of the three options, that one has a greater impact than the other, because I think that this lack of trust is a multi-directed, um, um, yeah, is comes from several directions, is multi-directional.
Let's look at what experts say. Regarding the Gallup survey, it is also, analysts have said that though the current repercussions of the current administration wasn't really taken into account given the time at which the poll was conducted, but they do believe that there's going to be a more significant drop in trust when future surveys are conducted. And they believe this could be due to the polarization that seems to be happening so much more, and friends, families are more divided on political issues now than ever.
Yes, um, and of course, the United States is very big. So when you're dealing with um, um, if you're taking polls within the cities, for example, in Los Angeles or in California where I live, versus the more central areas within the United States, or in New York, or in Texas. I mean, you're going to have very, very disparate um, responses to these questions, or to um, uh, there's going to be very, very disparate data. Um, the I know, for example, in Los Angeles, the issue around immigration is very, very different from what you get within the rest of the United States, and I mean in the more rural areas around the United States, and many of the red states, um, and and it's uh, and it's existential for people, for many people here. And I mean, it's hugely disruptive um, to to labor, to industries, um, especially to the agricultural industry here. And I think one of the things that struck me about the last panel that you had, of course, I know that you're talking about the UK, but this the issue around taxation is is a huge driver, for the United States. I mean, especially when you consider that the U.S. has I think it's like a $36 trillion debt, which is 100. It's close to 100, and maybe 116 to 120, like, debt to GDP. I mean, 116%. I mean, that when we think about, like government revenue, and we think about public debt, that $36 trillion is such a huge number that it completely impacts um, almost every single aspect of U.S. infrastructure. How do we talk about environmental sustainability? How do we talk about immigration? How do we talk about healthcare and housing? When we're dealing with a debt that is that high, and that the fact that South cooperation is changing so much, and that we're in this place where the U.S. dollar may no longer be the international trade currency, and that many of the um, and that the global system is on the brink of changing. So um, so on one hand, for youth, who's it people are very, very confused, because on the one hand, yes, we want to support decolonization, we want to support South cooperation, um, and on the other hand, when we're talking about our own, like, national issues around housing, healthcare, um, environment, the sort of like single um, issues. There's often like a deep contradiction in this, and um, so in terms of this lack of trust, there is continually a lack of trust um, of our leaders, not just Trump, but also Biden. And I think a lot of people, if within the United States, a lot of the youth understand that this binary, this either or Democrat or Republican system is is very, very problematic, and we are really stuck in a system, in a bipolar system. So the questions that I think many of the young people are asking is, how do we break out of this system, and what do we do with this $36 trillion debt? I mean, are we, for example, are we in an American perestroika? Does the you know what does the what kind of structural changes does the United States have to go through in order to um, maintain any kind of like government revenue, when the wealthiest 1% do not pay their fair share of taxes, or when corporations aren't paying their taxes, or are not paying a greater share of taxes. All of these issues are are on the table amongst the youth, not so much in high school or middle school, but at least in college.
Now, when you talk about fairness in the American system, where like the 1% who are very rich have to pay taxes. Now, earlier we talked about the UK situation where the MPs on the Labour side are suggesting wealth tax to the Prime Minister. Do you think that suggestion would work more in the US? What exactly do you think President Donald Trump has to do to regain trust?
Um, if I would say that if Donald Trump were to do an about face and to suddenly um, um, and to be able to tax, the 1%, perhaps 40%, 50% of 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 their assets. Um, that would that would be tremendous, and that would really help dealing with U.S. debt. And I think the idea of being able to bring this sort of like what President Carter called like the corporate oligarchy, to bring the corporate oligarchy like um, beneath the government, rather than having it, where it is in this corporate oligarchy. I think I think that I think that Donald Trump would do something that nobody believes could ever happen.
Okay. All right. I mean, we also saw that this rating was actually during the Biden heydays in the office. And of course, it would have been the rating on Biden. And a poll, of course, that just came out earlier today also suggests that Donald Trump has the highest of rating, while the Democrats are low. Are we seeing a renewed trust in the Donald Trump policies?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat yourself, please?
Cannot hear me clearly. I'm asking, the data from Gallup actually were the things that happened in the Joe Biden years, 2023, 2024. A recent poll earlier today suggests that Donald Trump is enjoying a lot of higher rating as the Democrats are plummeting in their rating. Are we seeing a resurgence in terms of trust in governmental system under Trump by the Americans?
Hmm. Um, again, when we're talking about about the polls, I'm not quite sure like what polls that we're talking about, because I think I also know that one of the issues is who's being polled, is who's being polled, and what the polls are, because I don't know how wide of a sampling um, this this addresses. Um, I wish I had the data in front of me, because as somebody who does, like, I works with data statistics and valuation, this is I understand um, how um, how easy it is to um, to shape um, to shape policy with data, and I also know how easy it is to manipulate that data.
Let me take you back to corporate oligarchy. Now, having Elon Musk in Donald Trump's administration, does that suggest to America that there is a strong presence of business oligarchs in American government? And what does that mean to Americans?
I think more people are beginning to understand what that means now. Um, but I but certainly since 2008, since the financial downturn, since the financial collapse, then I think we've seen more and more people in the United States, especially from around 2014 or 2012 to the present for the last 10 years, we've seen more and more people drop out of the middle class, and we're having like a greater rise in homelessness, a greater rise of social needs, a greater size. I mean, um, it's the statistics are um, are not do not look good for for the U.S. Um, well, I mean for the United States. Um, However, when we look at polls, when we look at some of the data that suggests that that the unemployment figures are at 20% or seem fairly low, you have to understand that what counts as unemployment these days means that it's people who have only been unemployed for 6 months, and so if you have people who have been unemployed for longer than 6 months and that they're no longer counted as being unemployed, then they're no longer like part of the this the equation, part of the system. Um, um, so it's this is so this addresses the more sort of systemic issue that you bring up regarding polling and the general mistrust that we have with polls and the way that polls are have been used to um, to provide um, I don't want to quite say misinformation, but it's not exactly accurate information. But it's so um, yeah, and I think that and so I think that many of the young people in our communities, I mean, they recognize that they don't pay attention to the polls because they see what's going on, in their communities, and and that's what they're responding to.
Think that Elon Musk being involved in the current administration in any way sends a message of the business oligarchs having so much power in the US government?
And that's true. That's very, very clear that many people are very, very angry, very resistant to Elon Musk. However, again, I'm speaking within Los Angeles in California, um, in an in a much more progressive urban community. Um, so the sampling that I have is very, very different from the red states and the states that voted for Trump. But in terms of Elon Musk, one thing that does strike me is that you can now buy a Tesla for I think like for like 13 or $14,000, which is which is unheard of, and a lot of people are getting rid of their Teslas. And I see that as a protest to Musk's popularity in the United States.
Okay, Annie, thank you for uh, those remarks. At least we appreciate your cautious optimism about what polls is doing to society generally. But also looking at it from this angle, the polls result shows that people are distrust in government system is increasing. Do you think that this also will have a part to play in the level of apathy or public participation in future elections in the United States?
Um, I would suspect that in the midterm elections that we're going to see more um, more of our youth participating in um, yeah in that election. Um, I think Yeah. So is that the question that you're asking?
Yes. Are we going to see more youth participation in future elections?
Yes, yes, I do believe.
Are there signs that suggest this? Because the poll is saying, contrary, that people don't believe that they can trust government. Maybe because lack of competence or capacity, or government don't care really about them, or they care more about their interests, and the people really are not in the equation. So do you think that this will encourage people to participate?
Yes, because I do because I think one of the drivers here is that people get focused on single issue, um, uh, on very specific issues, and so when they go to vote, they will often vote according to that one issue. So, for example, um, LGBTQ rights, or environmental rights, or um, 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 uh, anti-abortion, issues. I mean, like, these are the things that will bring people to the voting booth.
Thank you so much, Anisaki, Managing Director in Temerit F, for being on the show today. We like how you've been very, very open in your conversation, and you actually spoke on the different areas, how the current polls are coming from different parts of the U.S., and how optimistic you are of things being able to get better in the U.S.
I just hope that I'm able to answer your question. I had a hard time hearing you. So.
We apologize for that, and we thank you for making the sacrifice of losing sleep just to be a part of the show.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Annie, for being with us.
All right. After that wonderful conversation with Anisaki, let's take a break. When we return, to be time for us to hear you speak, and that will be on Posts and Perspectives with Swift Adinrita.
Hello, Nigeria. Hello, Africa. Yeah, this is Sound Man. Keep watching Souq News.
My name is Babalola from Excel LED. Keep watching Souq News.
My name is Shepherd Michael Adewale Onofuye. I enjoy you all to always watch Souq News TV.
Hi, I'm Tom Buggaballs, and please keep watching Souq News.
Wale Seriki, SLG Lagos Island East, Souq News. Keep out watching them and keep a lookout for them. They're up and coming, and we're proudly to be affiliated with them.
You alone where they make me go crazy. This your love in the cool of my brain. You're my medicine, I need you all day. Yo, it's Blackface Nigeria, and you're watching Souq News TV. Keep it locked on this dial, don't change it. You know what I say? Blackface Nigeria, love you bad.
At the Africa Development Studies Center, ADSC, we are committed to driving sustainable growth and development across Africa through innovative training and research. Our mission: empowering leaders, policymakers, and professionals with the tools they need to create lasting change. With customized training, dynamic research programs, and study exchanges on leadership, management, and other critical development topics, ADSC offers a platform for exchanging cutting-edge ideas and global best practices. We provide comprehensive services in research and consultancy, capacity building and training, education programs, publishing, and knowledge sharing. Our esteemed faculty, composed of seasoned experts and researchers, ensures a learning experience that is insightful and practical. We specialize in policy development, implementation strategies, monitoring, and evaluation. At ADSC, learning is engaging and enjoyable. Our unique methodology includes talks, interactive exercises, games, video screenings, and lively seminar discussions. all in a comfortable and friendly environment. Ready to make an impact? For more information, email us at info@adstudycenter.com or call +234 912 039 2362. Visit us today at www.adstudycenter.com to explore our programs and upcoming events. Africa Development Studies Center, rethinking development for Africa.
Broad Street. Broad Street, situated in Lagos Island, is steeped in Nigerian history. Once the biggest financial hub of the country, it housed the headquarters of major banks, linked the CBN, the stock exchange, and the loads of lender companies. Broad Street is a historically significant street. It has played a central role in the development of Lagos and history, an important commercial and administrative center for the British colonial authorities. It was also home to some of the city's earliest modern buildings. Broad Street was a residential area in the pre-colonial era. With the British came the Methodist Boys High School in 1878 and the Broad Street Prison in 1882, renamed Freedom Park. The General Hospital, which was a British military hospital, was built in 1893, being the first general hospital in Nigeria. The old British Secretariat building, which is now the Federal Ministry of Justice, was built in 1906. Broad Street has seen a full turn into modern commercial office blocks, complexes, skyscrapers, and markets from the outer marina through Akpombo early into the Adeliji-Adele Road. Broad Street is one of the busiest streets in Nigeria on weekdays, where commercial activities take place day and night. From modern buildings to ancient structures, this street gives one a raw dose of life in Lagos. Broad Street is often referred to as Lagos Financial District. It boasts a mix of architectural styles, reflecting its long history, colonial-era buildings, Victorian and Edwardian architectural features, alongside more modern skyscrapers and structures. Broad Street remains a vital, vibrant part of the Nigerian economy. Broad Street. Souq Enlightenment.
Good morning and welcome back. This is still Post and Perspectives. If you're just joining us, welcome. Basically, what the segment of the show is all about is we find out what you're saying about us on social media or the topics that have been discussed, because everything you say means a lot to us. My name is Swift Aderito, and like I say, let's jump right into it. So one of the topics that was discussed today is Nigerian Brazil sign 8 billion green initiative partnership. And the first person is Ponty. Ponty, how you doing? Ponty says, okay, so how much of the 8 billion will Nigerian government actually invest, Kenny? And you say after looting their share, and that is if they invest at all. Come on, we're going to invest that money, don't worry. A lot of green is coming up. And the next person has to be Ogidi of Abuja. How is Abuja today? We greet you, sir. And you say, don't just give us sweet headlines. What are we giving them in return? You're a give and take person. You said Brazil cannot invest so much in Nigeria agro business without interest. But nevertheless, with time, everything would be revealed. I just hope they are not bargaining with the future of our children. Kene. And of course, we have Big Runs, and Big Run says Brazil is dropping 8 billion into Nigeria's agro business. It's cute that they think throwing money at it would fix the mess. Maybe they should invest in teaching Nigerians how to actually manage what's already here instead of sowing new crops to wither away in corruption. Dr. Gangaga, I'm here for you again. I know you've talked extensively on this, but somehow, all the comments are not believing that this money will be utilized properly. Some feel that there will be some O1 bears and some private jets. What do you think?
Well, like they said, the greatest predictor of what will happen in the future is what was done yesterday. And I think that is what a lot of people we just finished having a conversation with Anisaki about the loss of trust in terms of governmental system. And that poll was for the United States. And I think if you have to measure it in Nigeria, it will be far, far, far higher. How much people have lost confidence and trust in the ability of government to keep their word. And I think beyond MOUs, Nigerian youths want to see things on the ground that are working. It's enough to throw figures and say, oh, we've signed this, we signed that. People want to see that this is translating into more food, it's translating into more jobs, it's translated into more houses, good roads, better airports, and the rest of it. And I think this is what government should be working at. But it's sad, really, to see that we are resorting to Brazil that had once looked up to us in the 1970s, and now we are looking up to them for help. And I think the current regime must have to do something so that they can begin to look up to us in terms of pioneering the growth of the third world, really.
So much, brilliantly said. Talking about looking up to us, like Doctor said, they say young Americans lose trust in the state. Gen Z. All right, so the first person has to be David Parrish. Hi, David. David says, is the lack of confidence due to Trump's leadership or Trump's unwavering of the years of mismanagement, waste, and fraud by multiple admins or administrations? And the next person has to be George R. Lawson. George, how you doing? Or Greg. You say many will likely interpret this as a critique of Trump, but it should instead be viewed as the reason for Trump. Good one. You say the institution America trusted were already in a deep state of decay before he ever descended the escalator. Only in such a time could someone like Trump ever rise? In other words, whether you think he's trying to arrest the decline or accelerate, many academic, business, and policy elites need to look into the mirror or grapple with their own roles in the decline. That's very brilliant. And of course, the last one has to do with Dog's Breakfast. Hi, I love your name, by the way. You say, why would young people anywhere like or even accept the train wreck they've been handed? A climate catastrophe on the way, a massive population that couldn't be supported, and a global and fuel economy that is making it all worse, and an American political administration engaged as if it's all house of mirrors. And the beautiful woman who always, sits head and shoulders with the men and does fantastically well. Blessing. American youths do not believe in their nation. We see it in Nigeria.
So it is not the Nigerian thing only. After all, not really us.
So what's your take on this?
Well, I think that the Biden administration didn't quite do very well in building trust with the American people. It seemed that they were tossed here and there a lot. And so that's really affected the young people. You understand that young people are quite impressionable, but at the same time, you understand what's happening. So if what they're expecting is not what they're saying, it means that the belief in the American dream have begun to die.
Yes.
But with the current new administration, don't have this fear that if a new survey is conducted, given how the President Trump has started with the repercussions of executive order, you would have more people, far more people having that trust deficit in the government. Well, the last response he took, I think that person was very poetic in the words that he was using to describe the situation.
Yes.
But I think that it rests with the Trump administration to actually correct some of those wrongs that had happened in America. The American young people look up to his administration for a lot. He talks about make America great again, MAGA. So if he can deliver on that, then I think trust would have been rebuilt. It won't take a day. Well, I don't want to say it may not take. It may take more than this administration, but there's a lot that this administration can do to rebuild that trust.
Yes. Yeah, but it is important also to add that, you see, trust is a social capital, and which means, of course, you have to deposit it to be able to withdraw.
Wow.
And, of course, a lot of people had overdrawn what was deposited by generations past. My history lecturer told me a story, and he said he went into a restaurant in the UK, and in the front of the restaurant it was written, "Eat for free, your grandfather paid for it."
Wow.
And of course, when he was exiting, then of course there was this sign, "You have to pay for your grandchildren." Fortunately, a lot of people had gone in to eat what the grandfather had paid, but they are living without really paying for their grandchildren. And I think these are issues that we need to actually confront in our world, that we need to have a lot of deposits so that future generation of administrations and regime can have enough of those social capital to withdraw.
No problem. Talking about withdrawals, we are going to keep withdrawing. And of course, this one talks about Starmer urges the introduction of wealth tax instead of cutting disability benefits. And of course, this one says, this is Andrews. And Andrews says, sorry, but reform is needed. But those who are disabled should not be penalized. They are basically on the gravel train. Should it not be hard to segment the database in several categories and make some decisions? Someone else jumps in, which is Hodgson, and Hodgson says, no one objects to severe disability people getting help, but millions have abused the benefits and the system, and the taxpayers are fed up working their off to fund the lifestyles of the lazy. I agree. It says millionaires live in UK in drones. So if benefits are not cut, all taxpayers will pay more. And of course, the last one I'm taking from here has to be Bishop. And Bishop says UK has a huge immigration problem. It's draining the country dry, just like the US. Fix immigration, and it will have to fix the budget. It will certainly have a major impact, and the UK already has high taxes, rising taxes, and may reduce income. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for commenting. Sorry, that's all I can take for the day. Don't forget to follow us always at Souq News TV on all our social media platforms. Comment, because we always come back and read that, because your comments mean a lot to us. Don't worry, I'm not about to leave you alone. I'm about to hand you over to the man who knows it all about sports and who is going to tell you a thing or two about tradition. We are talking about Honorable Chooks. Don't go anywhere, guys. See you in a bit.
Tafawa Balewa Square, TBS. Tafawa Balewa Square was initially used as a horsing ground called Lagos Race Course. The edifice was constructed by General Yakubu Gowon in 1972 and named after Nigeria's first Prime Minister, Sir Tafawa Balewa. Tafawa Balewa Square is located at 45/57 Marcy Bangboshe Street on Lagos Island, Lagos, and referred to as TBS. TBS is a 50,000-seater capacity venue and houses the Remembrance Arcade, the 26-story Independence House, which at a time was the country's tallest building. When Lagos served as the country's seat of government, the National Assembly Complex was within the TBS. Also in the square are the National Broadcasting Commission Office, the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency Office, shopping centers, travel agencies, restaurants, car parking lots, and a bus terminal. Tafawa Balewa Square is adorned with beautiful statues of white horses and red eagles, symbols of strength and dignity. Our historic neighbors include the King's College and the Holy Cross Cathedral. Tafawa Balewa Square hosted some of the country's memorable events, such as the Independence Day in 1960, when Nigeria gained independence from Britain, the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, which is celebrated annually on January 15. The edifice is a national cultural asset. Tafawa Balewa Square, Souq Enlightenment.
Hello and welcome to Souq Sports. My name is Chooks, John Rogers Chooks, and we hit it straight up. Now, for those that are wondering, Mexican Bank, Banote, they have come up to say, okay, good, as Azteca Stadium, you are going to have the full revamp you need for the World Cup for 2026. And to get this done, they are taking over the naming right for that particular stadium. Now, it's not straightforward. It's a loan, and it will be paid back in cash somehow. So for those still preparing for the World Cup, is happening in the US with Mexico, and Canada being part of the host. And this stadium will be ready before then as a loan in law for the naming right. So deals are being taken. Now let's get straight to China. What's happening? China and F1, Formula One, Tencent have renewed their right for Formula One, and that is a multi-year ride running all through to 2027. The multimedia company, they have agreed and are saying, we are staying here. As long as the race is happening in China, it's our name, it's our brand, you get to see. Till 2027, let's see what happens after and beyond 2027. Now let's talk some money. For those that swing some good golf, let's get there. Rory McIlroy, the young man has done it again. Now, at the Players' Championship that ended this Monday, as of Monday morning, his bank managers smiled home with something. Well, they were expecting it, but they didn't know it was going to be this huge. In beating JJ Spawn at the finals. So that three-hole was not that difficult for him. He still remains world number one. And now let's get down to how much we're talking about. I need to shut my eye so that I won't get carried away. $4.5 million. How many days did he play? Well, your guess is as good as mine. We'll say congratulations to him. And for Spawn still went on with some good handsome $2.725 million. So for those that watched the game there in Ponta Vedra Beach, you had fun. And the young man is still your number one. So let's get to some good projections for 2025. For every woman out there saying women's sports are doing good. Now let's get to the money part of it. There's this projection that for 2025, elite women's sports will earn 1.8 billion. Yes, you heard me right. The monies are getting better. The endorsements are getting better. The ticketing are getting better. The stadia is filled up. And the women are doing excellently well. Both athletes, branding, and commercials are doing excellently well. For 2024, they made about a little above $1 billion. So the projection from Deloitte this year is 1.8, and they will get there. My name is Chooks, John Rogers Chooks. We'll do this again tomorrow. Bye.
Thank you so much, Chooks John Rogers, for bringing sports to us today. It's a wrap on the show. Many thanks for watching. I'm Blessing Aiche. The show continues tomorrow, 7 a.m. West African time. Doc?
In life, they say trust is more valuable than gold. And in the words of Warren Buffett, it takes 20 years to build a reputation and just 5 minutes to ruin it. So in the long and the short of it, the foundation for every success is trust. So it's our responsibility to build it, nurture it, and protect it. So you out there, we will be back here tomorrow. Keep nurturing trust, and you become successful. Idahosa Samaza is my name.
Welcome to the Africa Development Studies Center, ADSC. ADSC is an organization focused on training and research to advance sustainable development and growth in Africa. We exist to facilitate customized training, research, and study exchanges worldwide on leadership, management, and critical development issues. The center offers a platform for the exchange of ideas and best practices. Our comprehensive services encompass research, consultancy, capacity building, training, and education programs, as well as publishing and disseminating development-related knowledge. Our faculty consists of experts and researchers with extensive experience in policy formulation, implementation techniques, and monitoring and evaluation. Our methodology involves talks, individual and group exercises, games, video screenings, and discussion seminar sessions in a cozy atmosphere, making learning enjoyable for our participants. For more information, email us at info@adstudycenter.com or call +234 912 039 2362. Visit our website at www.adstudycenter.com to learn more about our programs and upcoming events. Africa Development Studies Center, rethinking development for Africa. We've got just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas touch, and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix, and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best quality job.
My name is Muiba Wonu Folami, an indigenous of Lagos State, Ikorodu, to be specific. I was born in Lagos 86 years ago, and to the glory of God, I'm still alive and well, and trying to be a relative in the cause of women. I attended primary school. I started at Ansarudin Alakuru School. From there to CMS Girls School, and then Queen's College, Lagos. From Queen's College, I went to the Portsmouth College of Technology for my A-levels, and then University of London for my first degree in law. The same university for my master's degree in law. I had, between obtaining my master's and my first degree, I was in Nigeria to do the mandatory law school course. I was one of the last people to do a 3-month course before it was changed to 1 year. And then went back to England for my master's. And from there to lecture at the University of Zambia. Back to Nigeria, I was appointed by Dr. Taslim Elias, the CJ of Nigeria, to the Commission for Advanced Notice to Lawyers of Developments in Law. It was a commission funded by the Ford Foundation to keep lawyers abreast of the developments in law. I was a director there. Then from there, I was admitted to the Federal Ministry of Justice. After being legal advisor to many ministries. I ended up as the Director of Public Prosecutions for the Federation. And after that, whilst I was the Director of DPP, I was appointed Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice in Lagos State. After retirement, I've been involved in social work, in religion. I've always had religion, but I spend more time on religion. I read, I watch telly, and I live a good life to the glory of God. You see, when you begin to think that it was not until 2007 that women started to get equal pay in tennis tournaments. And it was something that was fought for. Little things like that does not add to equality. But when it was done, it may be small, but at work, even at work in employment, women are still discriminated against. And most women do two jobs. They look after the home, and they do the normal work that a man does in an office. Why I fail to understand this inequality in the treatment of women is that the work, the responsibilities in a workplace is not reduced for women, even though we do not want to be paid the same salary as men. It's a fight that has continued, and in that area, I think we need to do more to push for more recognition. Women have contributed immensely to the society. The men that are now resisting equal pay were brought up by women. That's what I do not understand, that they can think like that. We continue to push.
But how can we speed this up?
By bringing it to the attention of world powers, recognition by every country of equal opportunities, equal pay. I want to know, I want somebody to explain to me the jobs that women cannot do.
Yeah.
They've contributed immensely. Even in the new thing, IT, we're at par with men. So I do not see the reason for it. Unfortunately, I did not experience it, because when I left university, I practiced law briefly in my uncle's chambers before I went to University of Zambia as a lecturer. There, my position was enhanced in the sense that I was a foreigner, and I got all the benefits of being a foreigner, serving in their service. Fortunately, in Nigeria today, the federal government does not discriminate in terms of salaries. Whether you're a man or a woman, you get the same salary scale, and you are promoted on equal basis. Kudos to the federal government, to Nigeria for that. But in the private sector, things are different. In some companies, this is the area that we have to work on, because the job content is the same. Some of these facilities are available in Nigeria. I learned by being a member of the Society for the Disabled that every government body must admit a certain percentage of women and of disabled people. So most times this opportunity is not taken. They are bound to employ them. We continue to push for that to be implemented in most ministries. It's important because it's there. You have to take a certain percentage of disabled people to work in government positions. It's important that we work to enforce that rule in our society. When it comes to discrimination, Nigeria is way, way ahead of some developed countries maybe because through slavery, we faced discrimination right from the beginning. We now know how to resist it. But in my country, Nigeria, in the federal government, in the state government, there is no discrimination. It may happen in private organizations, but they must continue to push to let them understand that the job content is the same. Well, you see, traditionally, under our culture, women are in the other room. To borrow the quotation.
Yeah.
That's our society. That's our culture. It's going to take a long time to evolve. In my time, female education was not so popular. It's only the educated few that strove to send their children to school, their girl child to school. They end up trading with their mothers or going to market and getting married off early. But as education began to rise in our community, its value was seen by my parents and others of their contemporaries to educate the girl child. And I believe the society is benefiting from that. So we must continue to push for the education of women, of girls. I have thought that, when I read that, the certain state government has appointed look at our National Assembly. 4 women in the Senate. Isn't that shameful? And that is the society. We have to continue to push women up. Let these political parties know that we want women. Let us organize ourselves to continue to vote for women massively. I give kudos to our governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu. His cabinet women is well represented in his cabinet. And I enjoy that, I love him for that. And I continue to urge him to do more. He's done a lot. I think Lagos State has the largest representative of women in cabinet. First of all, they have to project themselves in their office space, their workspace. let everybody know that they are equal to the task. Let us organize. There's a lot of society groups and societies that cater for the interest of women. I believe now violence against women is reducing in the society because there are sanctions for such behavior. I must say that speaking to the organization in charge of violence against women, I was amused to learn that some men come there to complain and that they are also being violated and abused.
Yes, it's a two-way
It's a two-way thing. So that is reducing our society. Education of the girl child is important. We have to let the locals know that education is important. Let them showcase to them the lives of those who have been educated and who are holding high positions. I'm glad that our president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has returned history to the classrooms. It's important. Let them know about people that have contributed to the development of our society and our country. It's important. Yes, it's education. It's education. Once people are educated and they know that there is nothing a man can do that a woman cannot do when it comes to the workplace. We have women engineers, miners, and also all over. There is, give me a job specific that a woman cannot do, then I'll change my views. So the moment you begin to upgrade education, let government now continue to vote more for education. I don't believe we are doing enough. There is a UN convention, and I think Nigeria is part of that convention, that a certain amount of a nation's income should be devoted to education. I'm not sure whether Nigeria is complying with that. But some states are better than others. And we must, education, I believe in education of the girl child. Some states now are taking children, girls off the street. Hawking is completely prohibited. Things like that will help. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, we are not advanced enough to use our votes to change things. We are still not voting for individuals. We are voting for party, irrespective of performance. Education will help. And when we join other nations for the same purpose, we get results. Our organizations who are fighting for women in Nigeria should join worldwide organizations to showcase our own situation and learn. I believe that when you talk to others, you come back with ideas on how to improve things. So we must improve things by telling women in positions to show, to continue to prove that they are more than up to the task. It will not come to us on a platter of gold. We must show by our actions and behavior that we are up to the task. Of course, some women are wrong in claiming equal rights to their husbands in the house. I completely abhor that behavior. Even though they are husband and wife, the man in my culture remains the head. You should be respected. You should be respected. It's only now the condition of living is so high that you join the two incomes together to run the house. In the past, it was the men that ran the house to pay for everything. Maybe some of these women are thinking that because they are contributing a quota to the development that they have equal rights. Yes, they have equal rights on the upbringing of the children in their homes and everything. But respect is important. That will keep the home, and the children will learn and imbibe it into their own children too. Equal right does not, in my view, mean that you can be rude, can not submit to your husband's wishes. Equal right means something differently. Respect comes out of it. It's important. I go out and I'm like appalled at the way women dress. Oh. There's a competition to show as much of your body, to do that much as your as much of your body that you can. It's absolutely difficult. They're not women. They're no longer women. The exposure, things that if you did in my time, a member of the community will cover you with a cloth and send you home. Because community mattered at that time. You dare not misbehave outside your compound because this community is watching you and reprimanding you if you go wrong, if you behave badly outside. That is law. And that is why you see people, even their dressing, show disrespect to womanhood and to themselves and to the community. We must learn, teach our children etiquette of dressing, speech, how to think and speak in a decent manner. We don't have it anymore. We're losing it, and it's shameful because people are appreciating naked women on the streets. Both sides. If people dress badly and you tell them and ignore them, they won't try the next time. For instance, I believe nobody can dress to come to my house or to come to my party like a naked woman. I will turn her back. I will turn her back. So that's the type of thing that we should all do. Let the people doing this know that we do not appreciate things like this. When the society itself corrects it, we must correct it individually. We should, it doesn't, if their parents cannot correct it, we must, by ignoring them and not allowing them to come near us. Show our women that have contributed to the society. Yeah. Show them, showcase them, showcase them. Yeah. We have the first woman senior advocate of the idea. We have Okonjo Iweala. We have, in the UN. We have all sorts. We have what's this pharmaceutical woman? She's done so much. The younger ones are there. Little ones like Shadi Okoya is managing her husband's company and doing well. Let's encourage them. They are young. The young ones, they are working to improve the society. There's so many of them out there. We should showcase them. Let them know that we have women who are of top quality, intelligent, and well-behaved, and they dress well. Dressing well is dressing in a manner that is appealing to the eyes, not nakedness. That's my darling, this new CJN of Nigeria.
Okay.
Who do that? I did talk about Kikiri. I mean, we're there. Female CJN.
Yeah.
And there are so many female chief judges all over the Federation. There are so many in the medical profession, in the engineering profession. We have pilots. So let them know that there is nothing that a woman cannot do. In IT, in everything, women are moving forward. We should showcase them. We should let their pictures be seen in our newspapers, in our news, in everything, to encourage young girls that you too can get there. If they don't see, and if they don't know the history of these women, how they got there, they too will not be inspired. We have to inspire the young people with the achievements of women achievers. Kekere rose from magistrate to right to the top. I admire her. She's well composed, well behaved. Some of these people, when they become something, they lose their heads. They start with, no, she's so respectful, well behaved, well dressed. I don't think she would allow herself or her children to come out naked. Never. So people like that, Okonjo Iweala are the same. We have a lot.
Nigeria, rich in traditional and cultural heritage, is intentional about promoting history and retaining cultural values. The country has succeeded in preserving its identities and that of the forefathers for ages through folklores, folk tales, traditional ceremonies, community-based initiatives, cuisine, and most notably, museums and cultural centers. These institutions serve as invaluable repositories of history, ensuring that future generations remain connected to their roots and appreciate the diverse cultural tapestry of the nation. In Nigeria, there are over 38 museums comprising national, state, and privately owned institutions scattered across the country. Each of these museums plays a crucial role in safeguarding Nigeria's vast historical wealth, with collections that reflect the uniqueness of different ethnic groups, traditional practices, and historical transitions over time. In Lagos, the National Museum, located at the center of the city in Onikon, claims a notable collection of Nigerian art, including pieces of statuary, carvings, archaeological and ethnographical exhibits, among others. Of particular significance is the terracotta human head, known as Jema head, dated between 900 and 200 BC, which is part of the renowned Nok culture. The piece is named after Jema, the village where it was discovered. The museum is administered by the National Commission for museums and monuments and remain a key educational and historical attractions for visitors. Another prominent artifact housed within the museum is the famous Benin bronze head, an evidence to the artistic excellence of the Benin Kingdom.
The museum has a lot of functions, some of which are to educate, to entertain, research, interpretation, conservation and preservation of our cultural heritage. And the museum was established, Lagos Museum particularly, was established in 1957. It was formerly referred to as Department of Antiquities. So, well, the journey so far has been interesting because, we are here, to showcase our cultural heritage, not just to the country, but to the world. And we've had, we have series of, events that we do, that involve the community. And because of that, we create that awareness that this is where you can come and, see and feel your cultural heritage, your traditions, your history. Because it is said that a people without a history is a people without identity. So the museum portrays this to the people. And over the years, that is what we've been doing. Through education, community participation, we have galleries, that we display some of our objects, our antiquities, that showcase our patrimony and all there is to know about our cultural inheritance. And so the museum, has been doing that over the years, and, we still keep doing more.
The Lagos National Museum was founded in July 1957 by English archaeologist Kenneth Murray, following the submission of architectural sketch in 1948 at a conference on museum policy in Nigeria. Kenneth Murray collected several traditional masks from Cross River State to display in the museum's early years, according to historical records. The primary purpose of structuring the museum was to preserve Nigeria's historical artifacts and cultural heritage. Fortunately, that vision has remained alive to this day. The museum serves as a significant tourist attraction for Lagos residents and international visitors alike, offering an immersive glimpse into the nation's past. Some of the remarkable artifacts currently on display at the museum include the bullet-ridden car in which former Nigerian head of state, General Murtala Mohammed, was assassinated, pictures of previous rulers and presidents of Nigeria from different eras, a diverse collection of cultural drums, tools, and ceremonial staffs from various ethnic groups.